for little governments. As far as other members of our Incorporation Review Board, I am going to call their name and then they will introduce themselves. So, Bill, if you'd like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Bill Gearing. I'm chairman of the town of Sherman and Sheboygan County and right off the Wisconsin Town Association.
All right, Tom Matthias is joining us online.
Hello, I'm Tom Matthias, appointed by the Wisconsin Towns Association. I'm on the town board in the town of Verona in Dane County.
Thank you, Tom. Kurt.
Hi, I'm Kurt Watinsky, former legal counsel for the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, retired now for a couple of years.
Thank you, Kurt. Mayor Nichols.
Nichols, been mayor of the city of Manitowoc for almost 17 years now, and I'm appointed by the League of Wisconsin Municipalities.
All right, so that is our Incorporation Review Board. We do have some staff members with us today, and I'm going to give Eric and Brad the chance to introduce themselves.
I'm Brad Falscatter, Municipal Boundary Review staff.
Nathan Judnick, I'm legal counsel with the Department of Administration. We assumed lost audio as well online, I think. Now it's back.
Okay. All right, thank you. So we will have the petitioners introduce themselves and then the intervenors to introduce themselves, and I'll go over the hearing rules and purpose and everything like that. So petitioners, would you like to introduce yourselves?
My name is Bob Solberg. I am the lead petitioner for the town of Lexington and this endeavor.
Jackie Gold, and I am the alternate petitioner. You're gonna take all of it.
All right, thank you. Intervenors, if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
I'm Stan Riffle. I represent the city of Eau Claire, very proud to do so. We'll be here with David Solberg, deputy city manager, who will be speaking. Ned Knoll, planning manager. Leah Ness, director of engineering. Matt Jagger, the fire chief. Kitsy Winters, director of finance. I've schooled these folks to try very hard to get this in 21.5 minutes.
Well, that would be fantastic, but we will do what we can. So everyone, the purpose of today's hearing is to elicit testimony from the petitioners, the town of Washington staff, other interested jurisdictions, area residents, businesses, and so on about the proposed incorporation. This testimony will be used to help the Incorporation Review Board apply the statutory standards in statute 66.0207 to the facts of the petition. This hearing is not contested or a court-type hearing. There's no rules of evidence. There is no swearing in or cross-examinations of witnesses, no objections, etc. If you wish to speak, fill out the registration form that you can get when you enter the room. And they'll come me at any time. If you just wish to register in favor or against the petition, you can do that too. You're not required to speak, but bring those up to me at any time during the hearing. You may submit the forms at any time and we'll call on you in the order in which I get the forms. So I've been keeping track of that. Before you begin your testimony, we ask that you state your name clearly. And then only Incorporation Review Board members, only us up here, this side, not that side, this side can ask questions. So please, you're giving us testimony. You will have 3 minutes to speak and timer will be used. So you're going to hear a little foghorn going off if you go over the 3 minutes, and we ask you to wrap up then so we can move on. There are a lot of people who've registered to testify this evening. Most importantly, no decision will be made today on the incorporation petition. This is a long process, and so this is just, we're taking in testimony today. If after the hearing you want to submit additional testimony or you want to submit additional evidence, written comments, you have the opportunity to do that. We will accept submissions after the holiday season following the hearing until Friday, January 9th. So you can give us any additional comments by Friday, January 9th. And then the information, comments, the video of this hearing will all be available online. Everything about this process is public. So that's all available online, including all of these slips. They go online as well. So that's all information that is available publicly. There's some handouts out there that you took. The first one is the agenda, and that shows how this public hearing is organized and the estimated times. The town of Washington will provide a 25-minute presentation overview of their petition, followed by a short follow-up response from the few that have let us know they must leave early. So we're actually going to have the people who let me know they're leaving early. I put them at the front of the line. So we're going to have them go right after the city of Eau Claire gets their response. Then we'll open the floor for general public remarks. Again, we take from the list of the pile I have here of people who wish to testify. 3-minute limit. We ask that you keep your comments relevant to the statutes that you picked up outside. But we're going to be here as long as it takes to hear everyone who wants to testify. Please know that. The second handout out there was the incorporation process flow chart. And if you look at that, you can see we're roughly in the middle of that process. It's indicated by the red box. And still to come are 2 more meetings of the Incorporation Review Board to analyze how the petition compares to the statutory standards. We have the DOA Board of Incorporation Board has 180 days after the petition is submitted to give our determination. So that means our determination is due May 3rd, 2026. The other handout out there is the statutory standards. So that shows the state law standards which the Incorporation Review Board will be applying to the review of this proposed incorporation. So if any of you are giving testimonies, if you could relate your comments to those statutory standards, that's really helpful. And again, the speaking registration form. If you would like to present testimony to the board and are physically located here, please fill out the speaking registration form and bring that up at any time. This form helps us keep track of who's testified. And if you're not physically located here and you are online and you wish to testify, please post your name and address in the chat on the Zoom meeting. And we will call on you as soon as we see that there's someone there, just to make sure we're keeping that side of the house clear as well. So the first thing up on the agenda is the presentation by the petitioners. So Town of Washington, if you would like to start your presentation.
Thank you and good afternoon and welcome to the Town of Washington. I already introduced myself. I'm Bob Solbert, the petitioner. I'm also the town chair. I'm going to give a brief overview of the Town of Washington, but Gary Becker from Becker Professional Services will present the bulk of our presentation today. And I did want to introduce Rick Manthe. He is our town attorney, and he will be giving the closing comments at the end of the session. We'll start with from the Town of Washington, just a few figures. Financial stability. The Town of Washington carries no debt, and we have significant cash reserves. We are very careful about how we spend our dollars. One of the reasons that we have cash reserves is we plan ahead. We know expenses coming up for the future, like equipment, and when it comes to that point, we got to spend those dollars. We pay cash. Superior service delivery. We deliver the services that our residents want and desire, both efficiently and effectively. For example, I have a couple of acquaintances who live near the Town of Washington and a neighboring municipality
municipality. They're jealous of how well we plow our roads. From an environmental perspective, we are founding members of Rain to Waters. Rain to Waters is a consortium of a number of municipalities in western Wisconsin, as well as the DNR and UW Extension. Their purpose is to have best management practices for erosion control and stormwater management. Additionally, we require that any larger housing developments must install a community wastewater treatment system. For those of you who did the tour today, you saw some of those. We currently have 4 of those systems installed, with a 5th one to be installed in the near future. Neighboring towns often look to us as leaders in new initiatives and operational practices. We're also engaged with the Eau Claire Chippewa Falls Metropolitan Planning Organization, and we sit on the Policy Council as well as the Technical Advisory Council. Our continuing goal is to preserve the character of the town of Washington by providing responsive government, local control, and services that our residents want. In all things, we strive for excellence. So a little bit about how we got here. There got to be more chatter in the town from the residents due to the cumulative effect of multiple annexations over the last few years. And we were getting feedback like, why didn't the town oppose these annexations, or even some who thought that we were in favor of annexations. Well, that could not be further from the truth. So we thought we needed to do something to help with those misunderstandings. So what we did is we had a series of articles in our town newsletter that gets delivered to every household in the town. We started with annexation. We explained to them how annexation works, how it's triggered, types of annexation, and that basically the town has no control over annexation. We are powerless to fight it. We also described the notion of extraterritorial jurisdiction and the land use controls that are imposed upon the town by our neighboring cities that essentially make it nearly impossible for us to develop the lands within those areas. So we're beginning to get feedback that, well, first of all, we also offered 2 options, suggested 2 options going forward. We could do nothing and just learn to live with it. Or we could explore incorporation. With incorporation, that would add annexations and also eliminate those land use controls. We heard feedback that that was something they were interested in. So the town board decided to engage with a professional, Mr. Gary Becker, sitting here. And we called it a feasibility study. We wanted to at least do a high level look at what it took to incorporate the town of Washington. So could we incorporate the whole town, for example? If not, what might those territories look like for both a village and a remnant town? Look at the statutes and see that we could have some confidence that we could meet the requirements. After a month or so, we had those findings and they were positive. So we advertised and held a meeting for the residents. It was very well attended. We had over 200 people. We presented those findings as preliminary as they were and noted that they were positive. We then wanted to hear from them. The microphone got passed around the room and exactly 100 people spoke. Of those, 92 were in favor of annexation, 2 were opposed, the remaining 6 just needed more information, so they were undecided. So clearly that was a mandate. So the town board recognized that. We decided to fully engage with Becker Professional Services to pursue incorporation. By September of last year, we had those results. We had defined the territories. We understood the budget estimates, the impact on taxes, all of the requirements required to incorporate. We then took it back to our residents. We scheduled 2 meetings, one in the evening, one in the afternoon, so that most people would have an opportunity to attend. The evening session was standing room only in this room here. We presented our findings. We gave them all of the information that we had, and then we opened the floor for questions. There were a lot of questions, but what was clear is there remains strong support to move forward with incorporation. We even had people who would not be in the incorporated area who felt strongly that we should move forward. So here we are today. One last interesting tidbit, at least it is to me. In the town of Washington, we always exceed voter turnout compared to state averages. The last presidential election, I think we had like 92% voter turnout of registered voters. Now you might be thinking, oh, what does that have to do with incorporation? Well, maybe not a lot. But what it does demonstrate is that we have residents in the town of Washington who are engaged in their community and they have an enhanced sense of their civic responsibilities. We're not here today because the leadership of the town of Washington wanted to pursue incorporation. We're here today because the residents of the town of Washington wanted to pursue incorporation. Thank you for listening. With that, I'm going to introduce Mr. Gary Becker. His resume is long, and I picked out a few tidbits just so that you have an idea of his expertise. He's got 40 years in this business, assisting municipalities, regions, and organizations. He's a certified economic developer and finance professional. He's president of Becker Professional Services. He's past executive director of Local Government Institute of Wisconsin, and he's an expert in incorporation proceedings. You can see a half a dozen towns listed there, and of course, Washington is on that list. So it's all yours, Gary.
Thank you, Bob. And I'm proud to be helping the town of Washington in this endeavor. I think it's important for the town. And I think the town really meets all the standards for state standards for incorporation. Next slide, please. So I think most of us are familiar with where the town of Washington is, but this map indicates the incorporation territory relative to not only the entire town of Washington, but the entire metropolitan community of the Eau Claire, Chippewa Falls metro area. Washington is an active participant in the region. They're members of the Chippewa Falls Eau Claire Sewer Service Plan and are also members of the Metropolitan Planning Organization of the Chippewa Falls Eau Claire metropolitan area. This green area shows the incorporation territory. This area is 20.5 square miles, and it includes 3 different islands of the town that are in the city of Eau Claire, as you can see on the north, in that north area. The incorporation territory has approximately 5,423 people within it. It has about almost $1 billion in equalized property value, $900 million. The incorporation territory contains business parks and commercial subdivisions that have 165 businesses, providing retail, service, and employment diversity to this incorporation territory. There is one city of Eau Claire territorial island within Washington, and you can see it's the white rectangular area right in the heart of the incorporation territory. And since 2005, there have been 203 annexations from the town of Washington, transferring over 1,800 acres. It's 2.8 square miles to adjacent municipalities, fragmenting the community of Washington and creating an irregular northern boundary. So you can see just how irregular that northern boundary is compared to the regular boundaries on around the rest of the incorporation territory. Next slide. So there are 6 standards that need to be met. They're grouped according to these categories. The first is homogeneity and compactness. The proposed area must be reasonably homogeneous and compact, considering natural and social boundaries. The area needs to have some development potential. So the territory beyond the core must show potential for substantial residential or urban development within 3 years. And then there's a public interest evaluation that has a couple of standards in it. The Incorporation Review Board assesses the tax revenue, municipal services, and the impact on the remnant town, as well as the metropolitan community benefits. So the homogeneity and compactness standard, we feel that this incorporation territory meets that fairly well. As I mentioned just a minute ago, the boundary is regular on 3 sides. These boundaries are formed by historic political boundaries and an interstate highway. The north boundary is irregular as a result of all those past annexations, and it contains 3 islands that are surrounded by the city of Eau Claire. The areas, this incorporation will prevent annexation of areas important to the financial, social, and cultural health of Washington while preserving alternatives to annexation that provide the basis for cooperation and good faith negotiations among the communities. The very threat of annexation, that is the loss of land and property taxes, can make the difference between a completed municipal project and one that must be halted midway or canceled. Next slide. One thing I wanted to mention right at the outset is that if this incorporation is successful, it will be the first incorporation in Eau Claire County in over 100 years. The city of Augusta was the last incorporation in Eau Claire County in the early 1920s, and the population of Eau Claire County has tripled in that time. This map shows that the incorporation territory is topographically distinct from the neighboring cities of Eau Claire and Altoona, which developed in the Eau Claire and Chippewa River floodplains. The incorporation territory is characterized by ridges and steep slopes that make development more difficult. High density development with centralized distribution and collection infrastructure is impractical in this type of topography. And this type of topography calls for clusters of development with well and septic serving each cluster, which is the development pattern of the town of Washington and the future village of Washington, which is to pursue. Next slide. The incorporation territory is compact and has a connected core. So the core of the incorporation territory you can see in red, which is the commercial area along State Highway 93. There are also areas of high density in the islands and in the northern part. But the core of the town and the new village is planned to be this area in red on the map, which is that commercial, higher density commercial area. And it is a compact core. It's centered on State Highway 93. It has neighborhoods adjacent to it, both commercial and residential neighborhoods that are tightly linked. These areas are connected by local, county, and state roads to the rest of the territory. And this provides convenient access for most residents to this town core. 60% of the territory residents live within a 5-minute drive of this village core area. And this area is well positioned to serve a growing community. Next slide. The incorporation territory also has shared social and cultural traits. The marketing industry identifies the range of lifestyle choices of consumers and maps them to show the geographic distribution of such lifestyles. The incorporation territory is reasonably homogeneous in the suburban lifestyle preferences of its residents, and it's also distinct from the adjacent urban municipalities. Next slide. Washington is sought out by metro residents with these lifestyle preferences because the town's clusters of suburban and larger lot subdivisions are compatible with those lifestyles. The incorporation territory also has shared social and cultural traits. The incorporation territory school children attend 3 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, 1 high school, and participate in many youth sports opportunities as listed here. Residents share lifestyle preferences, active participation in the same school district, social organizations, and recreational activities. The incorporation territory demonstrates orderly land use pattern. It features clustered residential and commercial developments, access to nature and services. It's clustered in an orderly and logical manner relative to the proposed municipal boundary. And the land use patterns indicate a compact and homogeneous territory growing in an orderly fashion. The incorporation territory also has a stable residential base. Household incomes and home ownership rates compare favorably to neighboring communities, indicating the new village of Washington has a stable residential and housing base from which to incorporate. The corporation territory has diverse economic activity. With the economic diversity adds stability, identity, and social cohesion to the incorporation territory. With 165 businesses across retail, services, healthcare, and construction, serving the everyday needs of residents as well as providing employment opportunities. And all of this fuels local economic vitality. The road network and highways within the incorporation territory support the petition. The budding road network supports compactness and homogeneity and integration into the greater metropolitan community. The territory is served by major highways and a network of roads that facilitates regional and internal connectivity, providing 60% of the territory residents with access to the village core within 5 minutes. As Bob mentioned just a few minutes ago, there's strong community support. We've got 58 landowner signatures from the remnant town supporting incorporation. And at those listening sessions that Bob talked about, 92 residents voted in favor at that point, with only 2 saying no. Land use and zoning patterns support the petition. The incorporation territory has significant potential for development within the next 3 years. Significant amounts of vacant land planned and currently zoned for residential development. You can see the map, the brownish areas in the map are areas that are zoned ag transition. So the territory has 4,487 acres of vacant land zoned for agricultural or residential or commercial transition. Next slide. This incorporation territory does have significant environmental constraints to development. Significant portion of the incorporation territory is not suited for urban development. Approximately 27% of the land is unbuildable due to wetlands, steep slopes, and shoreline zoning restrictions. Despite the amount of undevelopable land, the incorporation territory has sufficient developable land to support the village's growth for the next 3 years and beyond. On the map, the parcels in white are shown as potentially developable land. The areas in green are impacted by steep slopes, and the areas in blue are impacted by shoreline zoning. There's been quite a bit of recent growth and development. 3 major subdivisions were recently approved within the incorporation territory. Forenza Estates is a 260-acre residential subdivision with 128 lots. Cliff Properties is a 74-acre residential subdivision. Trilogy Business Park is planned to house up to 16 new businesses in the town. And additionally, the town averages 27 residential building permits per year. However, incorporation will grant full zoning authority to the territory to promote orderly growth. So development is actually being suppressed in a large part of the incorporation territory because of the sewer service area and the ATJ that Eau Claire has control over the land use within the area. And so we believe that incorporation will spur greater development within the incorporation territory. Let's see here, mentioned, okay, yeah, Eau Claire imposes a 10-acre minimum lot size within its extraterritorial jurisdiction and restricts development within a large portion of the town. Removing that barrier will unlock substantial development potential. The community wastewater treatment systems that Bob mentioned, rather than centralized collection and treatment, increases the development potential of the territory more so than if development relied on a centralized collection system. And the intersection of major highways makes the area primed for future development. And as far as municipal services goes, fire and emergency services, fire protection is managed by a nonprofit fire company with 5 stations. 1 is located in each participating jurisdiction. Fire station number 2 is right here in this building. Current fire protection agreement would apply to the new village. Eau Claire EMS has rapid response times of under 10 minutes to the incorporation territory, and the current EMS agreement would apply to the new village. far as law enforcement is concerned, the Eau Claire County Sheriff's Department provides the town law enforcement coverage and enhanced parking enforcement. There is an agreement and there's planning for dedicated law enforcement with a deputy assigned 20 hours weekly. And the current law enforcement agreement would apply to the new village. With public works, it's currently provided by town employees with town-owned equipment. The new village will contract with the remnant town for public works services. Services include road maintenance, snow plowing, stormwater management, and cemetery operations with modern equipment. And we expect no change in this level of service as a result of incorporation. This municipal complex with the meeting facilities, administrative offices, a community room, public works garage, fire station, equipment storage, and material storage is perfectly suited to run a modern village. This facility would continue to serve the remnant town by agreement. Rest Haven Gardens Municipal Cemetery adjacent to the municipal complex would be in with the new village, and this facility would be managed and operated by the village. As far as parks, trails, and recreation centers are concerned, the incorporation territory has a number of those. They're listed here: Corden Park, Tamarack Pool Park, Trillium Town Park, and Trails, and then the list goes on. Next slide. And as far as the public interest standards go, and Bob talked about this in his introduction, the town has very strong fiscal capacity, almost $1 billion in equalized property value. The mill rate is just under $2 per thousand equalized property values. So that brings in about $1.7 million in tax revenue to the town. There's some other revenue from other sources. The cost to operate the Village of Washington is about $2.5 million. The proposed village demonstrates strong fiscal capacity with a balanced budget supporting the level of municipal services desired by residents. The village would not be assuming any debt from the town and therefore has significant borrowing capacity should it need it to incur any new capital costs associated with incorporation. And here's some comparisons of local tax rates from the area. The tax rate of $1.99 per thousand is favorable compared to neighboring cities, ensuring affordability for residents while generating sufficient tax revenue to provide the services that residents demand. Post incorporation, the town retains strong financial viability with continued revenue and manageable tax rates. And the use of financial tools available to villages like tax increment financing provides additional support for infrastructure and development projects. And the impact on the remnant town is fairly minimal. The remnant town still has a substantial assessed value tax base of almost $400 million. And the property tax limit or levy with the remnant town would be $500,000. The tax rate per thousand would be $1.25. And the population of the remnant town would be a little over 2,300. Incorporation will maintain sufficient population and property values to support essential services in the remnant town. The impact on the metropolitan community is positive. Washington collaborates with neighboring jurisdictions through mutual agreements and shared support for regional growth. The town has a sustainable development strategy that focuses on lower density cluster growth, housing diversity, and environmental protection that aligns with regional goals. And it improves government efficiency for the metro area. The corporation will increase efficiencies for the territory by reducing the number of governments with jurisdiction over decision making and enable coherent service delivery and effective infrastructure planning. This petition satisfies all the incorporation requirements. The territory is well zoned, exhibits orderly land use patterns, and has strong market demand supporting future growth. The proposed village has the ability to provide municipal services, has strong fiscal capacity, and demonstrates community support for incorporation. The incorporation enhances regional planning, preserves local identity, and prevents annexations of areas important to the financial, social, and cultural health of the community. For these reasons, we feel that this petition should be approved.
All right, anything else with my petitioners? All right, then I am going to move on to the intervenors. So City of Eau Claire.
Think we're getting the slide presentation up and running there while we're doing that. Again, it's a pleasure to be with you all again. Seems like only 2 weeks ago. And time flies when you're having fun. Okay, we're here to go. Again, I'm Stan Riffle, municipal lawyer out of Waukesha, Wisconsin. I've been engaged to work with the city of Eau Claire to give you information as it relates to why, in contradiction to Mr. Becker here, who I have great respect for, I completely disagree with him as to this petition meeting these statutory criteria. So again, the statutory criteria come up in a half a second here, maybe. Oh, here we go. And I'm just going to give a 40,000 foot, 55,000 foot overview. We have folks here that will fill in the detail, but just me reading this petition, having read dozens and dozens and dozens, and I've been on both sides of the coin here. Characteristics of the territory. Homogeneous and compact. One, you only look at the map that you saw before to see how this particular criteria fails. You have three, from what I look at, three distinct areas of this proposed town to be incorporated. You have the very, very urbanized town islands that are completely surrounded by the city of Eau Claire and are integrated into the city. They really are indistinct from the city. They receive city services. They have very, very little connection, both from a homogeneity or a compactness standpoint to the rest of this town. Then you have the rural density subdivisions and individual single family lots that's in the middle between the city boundary and the ag land. And I think you all drove around the town today, and I think you were able to see that you could drive and drive and drive and drive and see nothing but farmland down there. This rural density subdivision has its own individual component to the town, which is different than the urbanized area and very, very different from the ag land to the south. So from that perspective, just look at the map. That's all you need to do. There's no homogeneity. There's no compactness. It's scattered all over the place. The territory beyond the core, that's the one that really is the biggest failure on the part of this this particular petition. The 7,800 acres of undeveloped land, which is more than half of the entire area to be incorporated, of that, if we buy into their calculations, like 5,000 of that is ag land and open space that's available for development and is beyond the core. And there's absolutely no potential, zero potential for that to be developed on an urbanized scale within the next 3 years. I think I read that they average 27 residential building permits over the last 10-year period. You take that and apply it to the land here, you're talking about over a century before you have development, let alone urban type development. I think that they talk about these being large lot development, not urban type development. And all you need to do is to look at their comp plan, which basically stands for the proposition they want to preserve that ag land. They do not want it to be developed on an urbanized scale. That itself defeats the second criterion. The tax revenue, and I can talk about that in the context of the services that they provide, because of course tax revenue translates into providing the services that the folks need. This proposed village would not be able to provide services at a local tax rate, which compares favorably with the tax rate in the similar area for the same level of services. This town is completely reliant on other entities for survival. It does not provide any of these services on their own, which I will elucidate in a second. And they would not in any way, shape, or form have the fiscal capacity right now to provide any of these services at a level that would be expected of an urban village, which they propose to be. So we go on to level of services. The city filed a resolution of willingness to annex a territory. So this particular provision comes into play, as you all know. And the analysis compares the level of services offered by the proposed village with the services offered by the city. And unlike a responsible village, the town provides no sanitary sewer service, no municipal water service, no municipal fire service, they contract with a private company, no municipal EMS service, they contract with the city, no library, minimal DPW service. They have 3.5 full-time equivalent employees for 100 miles of town road, let alone doing all the stormwater work, let alone doing the town maintenance and all the town buildings. That certainly isn't a sustainable situation for the future, and certainly in no way provide services that are typical of an urban village. They have no planning, they have no zoning, they contract with the county for those services, and they intend to continue that arrangement if the county will agree to do it. They have no, and I hear chuckles, but no building permit and inspection services. That's all done by the county. So they're reliant 100% on others to do virtually all of the services that they provide to their residents. Impact on the remainder of the town. If you went to the remainder of the town, it is basically half of a regular town, which is virtually 100% ag. And so they're taxed at ag rates, which is a fraction of, obviously, you all know, of what you would have for lands that are treated like, residential. And the point of that is they're going to be locked in. There's not going to be any growth out there. They're going to be locked in for years and years at their current rate. And there's not going to be any net new development. And if we believe the slides, they've got a $500,000 a year tax revenue coming in, cover about $400,000 worth of cost right now. As years go by, municipal services go up and up and up, and there will not be the revenue to cover those services in a very short period of time. And they would be completely reliant on a village, which would probably, in our estimation, be squeezed as well. So it is not responsible to create a remnant town in these circumstances. So they do not meet that criteria. Finally, impact on the metropolitan community. There is, as you will hear, a great interest in developing in an urban area with sewer and water services for the benefit of businesses, for the benefit of the residences. The city has planned for these services to be available outside of their territory. It will be irresponsible for you to find that they meet this criteria impact on the metropolitan community. With that, I will turn it over to David Solberg, Deputy City Manager.
Good evening. Thank you for being up here this evening. I'm going to provide some historical context with regards to the town of Washington Heights Sanitary District. But to start, municipalities provide an extensive range of services to their businesses and residents, as was just gone over. Cities and municipalities in the Chippewa Valley have planned for these services for long windows of time. City of Eau Claire has been providing municipal level services since 1872 and before. Chippewa Falls predates that. The town of Washington started to provide these services through the Washington Heights Sanitary District to those patrons of the district. And in the late 70s, early 1980s, skyrocketing costs of providing those levels of services caused the town board at that time and the sanitary district board to have the discussion with the residents. Do we want to continue to offer these services, or do we want to not offer those services? And they approached the city of Eau Claire. And at that point in 1983, not with a lot of glee, the city of Eau Claire agreed to take over those municipal services that had been provided by the town of Washington and purchase those capital assets that are in those utility services and provide that service to those town islands that you see on there. And they weren't even at that time obligated to annex to the city of Eau Claire to achieve those services. So that alleviated the financial concerns that the town of Washington had with providing that service. The town board chair at the time and the district president said it's what's best for the sanitary district patrons. And the city or the town of Washington at that point in time made the decision that we are going to provide services that our residents expect, and the services that were expected at that time are the same services that are provided to the town of Washington residents today. And it doesn't include municipal services. To provide municipal level services, police, fire, utilities, library, municipalities plan decades to do that. The petition that is before you today does not provide for any expansion of services to a municipal level. It doesn't create a pathwork on how to provide them. It doesn't even restore them to what they were in 1983 before this agreement was taken over. And at that time in 1983, it was understood by the town board at that time and residents of the town of Washington that this decision to not allow those services would mean that town of Washington residents have jurisdiction and have control over if their properties should annex to a neighboring municipality, largely the city of Eau Claire or the city of Altoona, to access those services, or do they wish to remain in the town of Washington and receive township level services? It's not a decision made by the city of Eau Claire or the city of Altoona to push those services out there. It's a petition that's put together by a private property owner to seek those services, and it was understood by the town of Washington and publicly stated that it acknowledged that its residents would have self-determination to access those or not to access those. And that's when the path could have been set to start providing services and going down a valid incorporation timeline for that. So after that agreement was made, the map before you shows how the patrons of the former Washington Heights Sanitary District have chosen on their own accord as private property owners living in the town of Washington to have a petition of which in the last 20 years, not a single private property owner has been annexed to the city of Eau Claire against their will. Every single private property owner has annexed to the city of Eau Claire. Every single annexation to the city of Eau Claire with private property owners or public landowners with rights of way, the owners of the public facilities haven't objected to being annexed to the city of Eau Claire. So there isn't one party that has objected that has been within an annexation boundary petition. The neighbors have, but the people that have self-determination over their land have unanimously in the last 20 years chosen that as their choice to include their land in the city of Eau Claire or the city of Altoona because they desire those higher levels of services that was acknowledged as far back as 1983 as the route to go to get those municipal level services. To help facilitate that, we have worked very well with the town of Washington. The town of Washington, we have an agreement. It was referenced earlier that the city of Eau Claire exercises its extraterritorial jurisdiction over their 3-mile boundary over the town of Washington, makes it, quote, almost impossible to develop. What's not mentioned is the city of Eau Claire and the town of Washington had an initial agreement with all of our townships and was renewed recently with the town of Washington that we don't exert our extraterritorial jurisdiction out 3 miles from the city limits. We exert it out to the boundary of our sewer service boundary, which has not been adjusted in 25 years, even though the city of Eau Claire's growth has gone up 25%. And the subdivisions that were referenced are in fact inside the extraterritorial jurisdiction. The agreement that we have with the town of Washington allows those subdivisions to develop in the township. So right down the road over here by the town center, Trillium, Trilogy, those are in the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city of Eau Claire, but we do not exert our authority to stop that subdivision because of an agreement with the town of Washington where they say we expect and we anticipate our township residents that are within the sewer service boundary will annex to the city of Eau Claire. And that sewer service boundary affects the town of Washington way less than the extraterritorial jurisdiction. So that's a truth that is not omitted, and that statement that we exert control over them within 3 miles, they have hundreds of rural subdivision sites that have been developed in the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city of Eau Claire that have been allowed to develop because we have an agreement with the town of Washington, and we've had agreements since 1983 to go forward and develop in an orderly fashion. I was going to go over annexation process. You're very aware of the annexation process, but it's been recently noted that it's a land grab. But I just want to point out again the fact that all private parties that have annexed the city of Eau Claire from the town of Washington have signed a petition, and they've done so on their own accord. And that demand continues to this day because even after this annexation or this incorporation petition has gone forward, we are not able to accept any annexation petitions from residents within the boundary. We still continue to get those requests to the state because they are under the private landowners are under the assumption that they have the free determination that was publicly stated they would have all the way back to 1983. And we have had numerous agreements with the town of Washington since then that provide for that orderly inclusion and orderly self-determination of those properties to determine if they would like to remain rural or if they would like to remain, or if they would like to access city services. If not one single town of Washington resident wanted to join the city of Eau Claire, the city of Eau Claire wouldn't grow by 1 acre into the town of Washington. It's a private decision made by private property owners to self-determine their property. And lastly, I just want to point out with municipalities that provide full municipal services are the primary engines of economic growth in the Chippewa Valley. City of Eau Claire prides itself on its role that it plays in the Chippewa Valley and on sharing the valley's values and responsibility, values of responsibility, inclusivity, and economic vitality. We are a welcoming community. And the city of Eau Claire provides the region's largest supply of transitional subsidized workforce, affordable and market rate housing. Almost all affordable housing in the Chippewa Valley is constructed within municipalities that provide municipal level services because those services are essential to make affordable housing possible. And affordable housing is continually identified as a key constriction of economic growth. You need places that employees can live in. And those apartments, those twin homes, that higher density housing that comes with a lower cost is almost predominantly provided for in the incorporated municipalities in the Chippewa Valley for our particular region because we have the services that can support that. The city of Eau Claire actively supports business development and housing initiatives that address the full spectrum of workforce needs. The incorporation petition before you does not include provisions for meaningful regional economic development or inclusion of affordable housing. From the city of Eau Claire hopes the township of Washington continues to be a thriving and successful township in the future. We hope the city of Eau Claire is thriving as well and the entire region continues to thrive. And we look forward to continuing to work together cooperatively with the town of Washington as we have since the 1983 agreement was struck. But for the continued future success of the entire Chippewa Valley, it's essential that this incorporation petition be dismissed. Thank you.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Ned Newell. I'm the city planning manager for the city of Eau Claire and the community development department. We're going to go over some of the statutory requirements for practice and homogeneity. We want to highlight that has been done before by our legal staff. We know that the petitioned area is not compact. We have these 3 town islands that have been described about already. And that what we need to look at is solutions that also, as Mr. Solberg mentioned, that provide affordable housing options for the whole area. The past determinations of this board has looked at this statutory requirement and have found in previous cases that compositions of corporations that are proposed that have rural character and suburban and urban can fail in terms of that diversity of character with large lot subdivisions and farmland and suburban areas up to the north, closer incorporated into the city. We have that lack of homogeneity character. The board has denied petitions after finding this fact. Also, we have highlighted that the bulk of the economic development, jobs, resources, healthcare is actually in the city of Eau Claire, that these town residents have enjoyed and use and would probably not actually move to the township if those resources weren't there from the urban community, which has helped fuel their own growth. The territory as proposed by the petitioner is about 20 square miles, which is divided into these different distinct regions, split into the northern, more urbanized area as per their maps submitted in their corporation to show the green density areas in those areas that are closest to the city, which also have a lot of sewer and water connections available to them, which, as Mr. Solberg highlighted, was a failed district that was run by the town in the past. The northern area contains the most densely populated square mile, and yet the petitioners admit that this is not contiguous to the bulk of the landmass for the proposed incorporation. They instead actually prescribe a new core, which is along I-93, which is not so densely populated with businesses. This core area, which is 2.5 miles long along a state highway corridor, which has been actually admitted in our intergovernmental agreement as an entryway into the city of Eau Claire. It has no sense of place with streetscaping or public parks, no town facilities or government center nor a library. Yes, it is growing, but the fact that we actually gather in a town hall that's outside of actually their proposed core area demonstrate the lack of public amenities within the core. The city is growing, obviously, in this area with new apartment buildings and subdivisions that provide a lot of different diversity of housing needs. This is all very consistent with our urban sewer service area that's been planned out over the last 4 comprehensive plans as we've grown further this way in all directions as a growing city. We have these situations occurring in different townships as well. But in this particular case, these territories that they have prescribed are not homogeneous, and they rather are not meeting statutory density requirements. The petition also, looking at this homogeneity criteria, forgets about these urban dense land islands to the north. Again, these have curb and gutter in areas that look like a city that are actually incorporated or that look incorporated into the city. The petition gets into the sort of homogeneity lifestyle perspective and breaks down some different community characters here, highlighting lifestyles that are spacious suburbs and high earning families, distinguishing these areas to be consisting of primary white families with income above national averages on page 25 and 26 of the petition as it plans for its character for the future. This doesn't describe the town's high density urban areas, which is more diverse in terms of population and race, and is a limited vision for the area as we continue to grow more diverse for our metropolitan area. This petition is not comprehensive in that sense, not incorporating all the residents, nor does it consider or reflect the needs and values of our greater community. Thirdly, another factor for incorporation that requires is the vacant and developable territory beyond this core in the next 3 years. Based off the petitioner's own analysis of acreage, about 4,500 acres of potentially developable land in the territory with about half of that being ag land. And notes its building rate of 27 units, residential units for the past 6 years, consuming about 40 acres. That would take a long time to build out in that supply. And so it does not meet the 3 years of supply mandated by the statutory requirement. DOA's own estimate in 2025 said it was 1.2 or 1.62% growth rate for the town. And if you lack municipal services of water and sewer, you're not going to be able to rapidly develop. The city for years has served as an employment and healthcare retail hub for the whole region, including the town and benefiting the town residents. Growth in the job and housing sectors in the city allow for expanded municipal services that the whole metropolitan area relies on. And this urban scale growth has been anticipated and planned for, as I mentioned, in our comprehensive plans over the last 4 decades. Through intergovernmental agreements that we have with the towns that are being not upheld in terms of our agreements with the towns, in particular the town of Washington. In contrast, the petition does not plan also for, as mentioned, the budgetary municipal services that will be indicated more in future with future speakers, and does not represent the diversity of residents that we seek to welcome to our area. I want to highlight one last thing with the economic development potential, that you look at the slide here with the acreage of jobs in the city versus the town in terms of what we were able to accommodate in terms of land use needs and compact development, that this is true development in terms of compact versus the urban sprawl type compact development that they're proposing for their future without water and sewer. So again, revenue per sales per acre and residential units per acre as well along those corridors. And just to wrap up, we want to mention that the city of Eau Claire has been providing a lot of different regional needs in terms of housing, as we have an affordable housing crisis right now, not only in our area, but also in the state and the nation. And the developments that are moving this way based off of private petitioners to annex that land in and sell that land to developers has been meeting the needs of different lifestyles, whether it is single family houses, apartment buildings, twin homes, and so forth, senior condos, just right in and around this area as well, meeting those needs of our community members. So I submit to the board that this petition fails to meet these statutory requirements for incorporation and should be denied. Thank you.
Evening, I'm Leah Ness. I'm the Director of Engineering for the City of Eau Claire, and I'm here tonight to discuss the expectations of utilities and engineering services and public safety related to transportation and utilities servicing the community. For a little background, the City of Eau Claire Engineering and Utility Division has just over 70 employees that work hard and efficiently and effectively to maintain our streets and utility systems. Our Streets and Fleet Division has over 40 employees that also assist in this task. Over the past years, during annexation hearings at our city council meetings, myself and co-workers have heard town residents express concerns about water and street safety in the area. Town residents voiced concerns about runoff proposed from the Orchard Hill project development affecting creeks. We agree. The city will manage the runoff through the use of the stormwater conveyance systems and best management practices. We too are members of Rain to Rivers and are an MS4 community that works with the DNR. We look to ensure that the runoff will be improved by the development in the area. We use street curb and gutter practices to design and manage our stormwater runoff. Residents had concerns of increased traffic and pedestrian connectivity with the annexations. We do too. The city follows traffic impact analysis guidelines that are outlined by the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. We have an ordinance written within the city of Eau Claire that sidewalks must be constructed on both sides of the street for pedestrian connectivity. Within the traffic impact analysis, we look at not only motor vehicles, but we look at pedestrian and bicycle accommodations as well. We hope that the connectivity of the sidewalks and the trail systems within the community help build that neighborhood and connection within the city. Town residents and neighbors also voiced environmental concerns with individual wells and septic systems and its impacts to the aquifer. We also agree with those concerns. We understand that the soil characteristics impact the installation and the effectiveness functioning of private septic systems, and that the existing soils are less than ideal for these types of systems within the proposed incorporation area. This increases the potential for septic failure and water contamination. Our public systems investment in the area is important because it limits these problems. The city's wastewater treatment plant discharge effluent is cleaner than the receiving water in the Chippewa River. The water treatment plant provides safe and dependable supply of drinking water from 16 different wells. The petitioners do not propose to solve these public health and safety concerns. City services are capable of addressing these concerns, and we are actively investing in the safe water, wastewater, and streets within the areas. Our city recently invested in constructing a new PFAS facility. You can see the plant and vessels within the slide here. This is a great example of being proactive to address concern of early state of PFAS levels before they fell outside of the DNR regulations. The city continues to invest in infrastructure. In 2025. We've invested over $7 million in utility extension work within the sewer service area. This has potential to service over 2,000 acres of land. The city has a number of plans that plan for guidance, upgrades, and maintaining our facilities and help us develop our budgets related to meeting the anticipated demands and from the resulting growth of the community. Lastly, city engineering and community services staff of over 100 are responsive and ready to provide safe and sustainable services now and well into the future. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Matt Jager, Eau Claire Fire Department, Fire Chief. I'm here to discuss why the proposed petition for incorporation would harm the town of Washington. First, it's imperative that we recognize nationally recognized fire department incident priorities. One being life safety, the paramount concern for both community residents and fire safety personnel. The second being incident stabilization, bringing the incident under control in the shortest amount of time that affects the least amount of property or environment. That current picture is the one at a recent WWR fire in the town of Washington. And then these incident priorities are essential to the community safety. Next, we're going to talk about fire behavior and victim profile. The bar graph there you see relates to victim profiles and response times. Fire doubles in size every 30 to 60 seconds, according to Underwriters Laboratory and Fire Safety Research Institute, National Institute of Standards and Technology. Flashovers, which is a sudden simultaneous ignition of all contents in the room, occurs within 7 to 10 minutes. Backdrafts occur within 12 to 15, and those are small explosions when oxygen is introduced into a structure. That bar graph indicates that with significant delays in responses or decreases in response times, the victim profile for survival significantly decreases. Response standards. The National Fire Protection Association, NFPA, is an independent nonprofit organization whose goal is to reduce the number of deaths, injuries, and property damage caused by fire and hazards. NFPA 1710 applies to career departments such as the Eau Claire Fire Department. It requires us to have a 60-second turnout time, first unit arrival time in 4 minutes, secondary units to arrive within 8 minutes, 90% of the time. NFPA 1720 applies to the Township Fire Department, which turnout times vary by jurisdiction. First arrival times are required in 9 minutes, and secondary arrival times in 10 minutes. So you can see the impact when you need fire protection service with the delayed responses. Incorporation creates a public safety gap. The proposed petition for the proposed incorporation already experienced commercial, industrial, and hazardous material incidents. Previously, I showed you a documented incident at the Waste Research and Reclamation, WRR, which has had significant fires in 2007, 2010, and 2020. Each incident required formal mutual aid requests from Township Fire to the Eau Claire Fire Department. Incorporation does not include a plan to replace this reliance on municipal fire or EMS department. This creates a gap between risk and response capabilities. The volunteer model is not sufficient for a village level risk profile. Township Fire Department operates a volunteer regional fire service appropriate for low density rural townships, and they do an excellent job. The incorporation proposal allows for increased density, commercial and industrial expansion, and a village center. These changes should require full-time staffing, ladder trucks, hazardous material capabilities. None of these are funded or planned in the incorporation proposal. Response history shows repeated reliance on the Eau Claire Fire Department and surrounding jurisdictions. The WRR incidents demonstrate a pattern, not isolated events. Eau Claire and surrounding jurisdictions responded with additional fire companies, ladder trucks, hazardous materials technicians, and additional advanced life support EMS. Incorporation does not change this fact. It institutionalizes reliance on this external aid. No fire or EMS transition plan exists. The incorporation petition does not include a fire department staffing plan, a ladder truck acquisition plan, an EMS system, a funding source for career staffing, a timeline for implementation. Incorporation occurs immediately. Building emergency services capacity takes years, not months. During this gap, residents and businesses face reduced protection. Incorporation increases risk without increasing capability. Development increases call volume, incident complexity, mutual aid demand. The incorporation proposal increases risk exposure without increasing response capacity. This is a foreseeable and avoidable outcome. Increased mutual aid burden hardens the entire community. And this should be noted. Mutual aid is a request for service, not a right to service. More reliance on mutual aid pulls additional resources away from the primary service area. It stretches all regional response capacities. It delays critical responses to affected individuals. Incorporation does not just affect the new village, it would greatly negatively affect neighboring jurisdictions. Fire insurance and economic impacts are likely. The lack of the ladder truck capability, staffing, and response staff negatively affects their ISO rating. It increases insurance costs for residents and businesses, discourages high-quality commercial investments. These impacts undermine the stated economic goals for incorporation. Incorporation without fire and EMS investment is a net harm. The town of Washington currently functions appropriately as a rural township with regional fire service. The incorporation proposes a village-level environment without village-level services. The result is reduced safety and increased liabilities, increased reliance on mutual aid, which is just at a request and not a right. Greater risk to residents, responders, and businesses. For these reasons, Incorporation as proposed harms the Township of Washington and adjacent communities. Thank you.
Sue Winters, Director of Finance for the City of Eau Claire, and I'll keep this brief and wrap it up for the City of Eau Claire. I was tasked with performing a comprehensive review of the Town of Washington report to determine if the budgetary information was sufficient to provide the essential and life-saving services for its residents. Compared and contrast with similarly situated villages on metrics which will be formalized within the executive summary. I found the budget unreasonable to match service delivery requirements for the proposed village or Town of Washington remnant. For all intents and purposes, the budget presented is still a township budget offering a township service level. A few of the areas that I'll identify in the executive summary: remaining fund balance proportioned inequitably. Village of Washington retaining 82% of the monies and only 69% of the assessed values. Report suggests leaving 42% of the road mileage within the Town of Washington remnant, and 28% of the original budget, not leaving enough dollars to match the services. Most concerning is emergency services. Budget insufficient for police and fire, missing the operational budget for adequate FTE staffing within the village mandated services. So no matter the metric you're using financially, population, assessed value, comparable villages, calls for service, all which I'll identify in the DOA report in the executive summary. There's not enough funds within that budget to support the village related services to any of those comparable areas. Does not identify proper dollars, even at the contracted proposal with using the Eau Claire County Sheriff's Department. No contract for the EMS services between the City of Eau Claire and Village of Washington that is now negotiated at a higher rate, so that budget would have a shortfall therefore as well. Proposal is definitely dependent on surrounding City of Eau Claire urban areas for the essential services. EMS, fire, police operationally will have that increased response time that was just spoke about. There's a lack of a formalized capital improvement plan to include the Village of Washington Fire Station, Police Station, protective services equipment, including that ladder truck to get that second story building within those response times that Chief Jagger was speaking about. Streets are proposed at funding levels inadequate to preserve the current condition of the road network and does not address the future growth demands or even reconstruction of the current system. No recreational trails or parks proposed within the Village of Washington, and a lack of town hall within the town remnant. As a direct result, from a financial perspective, a right-sized budget for this report: police 1.2 million, fire 1.1 million, EMS again would be budgeted too low. As a result, what you've been looking at on the screen, the tax impact on the Village of Washington would be unsustainable. As Chief Jagger was mentioning, you know, the village is approved immediately and you need that budget immediately. Well, the town of Washington report shows a 25% increase in that levy. We'd really need a 354% increase within that levy in the first year. Then from 2025 up to 2031, that would be a overall increase of 596% or 4.2 million in the first year, up over 6 million within the end of that. That would cover the CIP and operating budget. The tax impact in the town of Washington is unreasonable. On the remnant portion, the proposed report shows an 18% increase on the remnant, and you would need an 82% increase in order to right-size that funding. Overall increase from 2025 to 2031 to meet the minimum service levels would be a 96% increase. Again, in summary, the application seeks village status. The budget presented continues to reflect the scope, scale, and service delivery of a township. when right-sized to provide a service level conducive of a separated town and village. It increases taxes to an unprecedented and unnecessarily level, since it's essentially building from the ground up in non-contiguous areas and not meeting the minimum service levels required for the separation. I'll submit all of that data to you and all those metrics within the report. Thank you.
20 seconds. In conclusion, right now you have 2 incorporation petitions pending before you. One, the town of Campbell, one, the town of Washington. I'll suggest to you, it will be your judgment, that the Campbell petition is the best case for meeting all incorporation criteria that I've seen in the last 40 years. I will also submit to you that the town of Washington petition is the worst case for meeting any of the incorporation criteria that I've seen in the last 40 years. Thank you.
And thank you. We do have a number of people who registered to testify. I have 2 people online, but first I know Dory had to leave. So Dory, if you're still here. So Dory Pulse, followed by Jim Hager, followed by Jennifer Shattuck. And then we'll get to the 2 online people. So go ahead, Dory. And you have 3 minutes.
Thank you for consideration. Good afternoon. My name is Dory Pulse. My husband Bob and I have lived at 5905 Crocus Lane for the past 18 years. We chose our home specifically for its country style living, land space, natural beauty, quiet, and lower taxes. We are not city people, nor do we want to be. I've been to city council meetings and left every one of them disgusted and angry. I have no respect for their decisions and I don't trust them. I don't have time to list here why I feel that way. I believe they focus on greed and money more than what their constituents want and need. We are financially free of debt and we're proud of it. We didn't need to institute a wheel tax to meet a budget. But I can visit my town office, I can call, I can email any business day, and within that day, I get a personal response and an answer. These people actually care about why they're here. Town meetings. Don't punish me for going through that. Town meetings were open, were short, and they allow us taxpayers to speak and are available before and after meetings to chat. You will never see that at a city council. I should maybe not say never, because they do not want to mix with the people that are there for the meeting because those people are angry. I work with these people during elections as I am a poll worker. I have a respectful, open relationship with them. Do we always agree on things? No, but there's always respect and trust. I ran for county seat and for the town of Washington board. Although I didn't win either spot, I spoke to my neighbors, friends, and those of us who want the same country style living. We know the town cares and they want the best for us. The town has come quickly when I called to remove trees and debris that fell across and blocked our street Crocus after a storm. Snowplows are prompt and roads sanded. Many of us use Nimitz Street to get to Claremont, and the city cannot keep it cleared because we usually have to deal with snow potholes all winter. Many of us fought the Orchard Hills issue. That should have never happened. We felt deceived and manipulated, and then we find out another area was pillaged. Of course, they had to connect Orchard Hills, and we taxpayers still have many unanswered questions about the roadways and an old overpass across I-94. We don't see my town as government. We see it as a resource, and it's personal. Please help us keep the city off our property. I'm praying and asking that the town of Washington's petition to incorporate as a village be approved. Please. Thank you. God bless you, and Merry Christmas.
Jim Hager, followed by Jennifer Shattuck.
I'm Baker. I'm president and CEO of WR Environmental Services, Northwest Enterprises. We are one of the larger employers in the town. We've been in business 55 years on Highway 93. We've been approached several times by the city of Eau Claire, and we didn't choose to go that way. And it wasn't because of the fire department in Eau Claire, they're a fine group. I got a lot of respect for them. 18 years ago, like the gentleman said, we had a major fire. Eau Claire was there as a regional hazmat team that's sponsored by the state of Wisconsin. Township Fire Department and several other departments were there also. Township Fire Department was there several days after, kept checking on it. I was a member of Township Fire Department for over 30 years as an officer, and I got a lot of respect for the firefighters in Wisconsin, or town of Washington. I'm gonna make it real short, but we really hope to have the town of Washington's petition to incorporate as a village approved. Thank you.
From Shamrock, and then we'll follow up with Representative Hurd and Scott Bolstead.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Jennifer Shattuck, and my husband Jack Bushnell and I have lived for 26 years at 5396 Cindelar Drive in Washington Township. The incorporation of the town of Washington into a village is a welcome and natural expression at this point in time of the township's distinct character and values and its desire to extend and strengthen this existing identity into the future. The very first spring after we moved into Washington Township a quarter of a century ago, Jack and I experienced firsthand a defining moment for us about the character and cohesion of this community. The town board at that time had proposed an improvement to Palomino Street that would involve widening the road behind our house in order to incorporate concrete sidewalks. The plan would have used the easement along the north side of our house and the length of our backyard. This expansion would have meant the destruction of many old growth oaks and maples, minimized the size of our backyard, and brought the sidewalk to within feet of our bedrooms. The proposed plan gave Jack and I an opportunity to get out to meet our neighbors and hear their perspectives. Long story short, the next board meeting was packed with residents who clearly communicated that they did not need or want broader roads and city sidewalks. The proposal was roundly defeated. What Jack and I took away from this experience was that what might be deemed an improvement in more urban environments, like the city of Eau Claire, was definitively viewed in the town of Washington as marring the naturalistic atmosphere of our environment, and that our community was willing to sacrifice some benefits to preserve that more direct connection to nature. This community discussion that we had during that period was an experience that made explicit for Jack and I, and then further strengthened our township's understanding, I think all of us together, of our deeply held shared values. We Washingtonians are self-reliant, independent people. We have a highly professional, capable, and minimalist town administration that keeps our roads safe and that adeptly manages our taxes and general services. Our nearby apple orchards, the naturalist setting of Lowe's Creek Park, the wonderful landscaping and flower shops on I-93, I think symbolize for us the kind of semi-rural, transition rural character that is Washington Township, and that we want to protect and nourish far into the 21st century and beyond, even though we recognize there's going to be growth. We want to help determine what that growth looks like, not have the city of Eau Claire dictate that to us. So on these grounds, we urge the approval of the town of Washington's petition to incorporate as a village.
All right. Is everyone able to hear me?
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you. I'm Representative Karen Hurd. I serve in the Wisconsin State Assembly. I had the great honor of representing the town of Washington in the 68th Assembly District until the redistricting of the maps. Since I have met many residents in the town of Washington, I have been working at the state level as the lead in legislation in extraterritorial jurisdiction. We are one of only 12 states that still have extraterritorial jurisdiction. And there are two major problems with that, which I will address in a moment. But I need to be specific to the town of Washington's petition to incorporate. I am strongly in favor of it. The doom and gloom testimony that I just listened to from the city of Eau Claire, I need you to understand that the city of Eau Claire has a very vested interest in this petition failing, because they will not then be able to annex the properties that would increase their property tax income and their revenues. They have gone through and listed all the things that the city of Washington doesn't have, hospitals and all this coverage. Well, I want you to know that I live in the city of Thorpe, actually the town of Withee, but just outside the city of Thorpe. We don't have a hospital in the city of Thorpe. We have a small one in the city of Stanley. That's okay. There are, in my district, I have the city of Greenwood and the city of Loyal, 7 miles apart. They share a wastewater treatment plant. You can be incorporated and you can come up with resources. And to say, well, you don't have all the services, you're missing and lacking all these services. Well, yes, because you're a town, but you know what? This town has been able to take care of fires because they contract and they do their sharing services and they pay for those services. They have been able to take care of the people all these years. They will still be able to take care of their people in all these ways, and they will have the chance to develop and grow and to be something they need to be. Now, two major issues. We have to address property rights. I heard from the city of Eau Claire that every single one that is annexed into the city of Eau Claire did so willingly. I want you to know that I have spoken personally with property owners and they felt forced into it, actually very forced into it with a lot of pressure. Secondly, we need to look at voting rights. In the extraterritorial jurisdiction, the city or the village that has that extraterritorial jurisdiction, they get to make decisions on land use, whereas the town who does not vote for those representatives, the city council or the village board, those town people cannot vote for their elected representatives. That is why I'm pushing forth legislation. It may not come out this session. I've been working on it for 3 years, but next session, if we don't get it done next session, I will be very surprised to absolutely eliminate extraterritorial jurisdiction because of the superior attitude, which I heard today in the city of Eau Claire's testimony. It was very clear. We know what's best for the town of Washington, and Washington doesn't know because there's some ugly country cousin that isn't smart enough to do things well. But they are smart enough. And we live in the year 2025. And it's about time that we got our act together and quit the land grabs that are going on. This is not just going on with this town of Washington. I can name many, many places in the state. Senator Pat Teston is the Senate lead with me on these bills, and we will continue to pursue this. I strongly urge that this petition by the town of Washington be accepted, and I am in favor of it. Thank you very much.
All right, Scott Olstead online. Scott?
Yes, I am. Good evening, committee. Thank you very much for holding this hearing. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. I can't be in 2 places at once, but thanks to Zoom, it's almost possible. I am a resident of the city of Eau Claire. I have lived here for over 20 years, and I have watched over the last 2 decades as the city has just picked apart our rural communities between Eau Claire and Altoona, especially the town of Washington. I was mainly going to talk about the extraterritorial that Representative Hurd just spoke about, but I echo what she said. You know, it's unfair to live in a town and not get to elect the people who are making the decisions about the town where you live at. And, you know, our city here has just passed an increased $30 wheel tax, not to fix the roads, but for operating expenses. They may sound like they have it all together, but I like to refer to our city council as seventh graders planning a wedding. I do not see what the good people of the town of Washington have done to deserve to become Eau Claire residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have Mike Matson, followed by Brian Wood, followed by Don Henning. So Mike Matson.
I'm Mike Matson, 3120 Davis Drive. Just a few things from the conversations earlier. It seems like the city is selling to annex us. Everything I hear, it's all about them, and yet all I hear is negatives. And that's not what this is all about. We need to, I was a city resident for over 40 years. And I can tell you horror stories of your city, how it runs, but I'm not going to get into it. Past incidents have nothing to do with what's going on right now. I don't care about the history either way. I feel my personal choices and rights are being threatened by the city with their annexation. That's why we wanted to do the incorporation. Trust is not a steady suit of the city. Their code changes have high density where we are out in the country. We don't want apartment buildings. Look what we see next to the highway here. How much high denser can you get? We have no guarantees that they're gonna back that up. I have no trust for them at all. The only thing I want to say, and wrap it up, is I want to have what I've had for 33 years in this township. A village where I'm not threatened by big buildings, overpopulated roads. That's another issue that they're not even dealing with by bringing that many people out here. It's not worth it. Thank you.
And Brian Wood, followed by Don Henning, followed by Joshua Miller.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to visit on this a little bit. My name is Brian Wood. I live at 5896 Crocus Lane, and my wife and I lived in the city of Eau Claire, and 30 years ago we wanted to get out, and so we found a house in the southern boundary in the city, in the town of Washington. And as we drove out to the property, we hadn't really adventured out in that area very much, but as we drove out there, we just fell in love with it. You had the mix of homes and developments, and everyone had a little bit of property, and there was woods connecting everything. You had the agricultural fields. It was just a wonderful place. And you know, when I first moved out there 30 years ago, I could walk out on my deck and look up in the sky and see the Milky Way. It's been a long time since I've been able to do that because of the encroachment of the city of Eau Claire, especially the development in 93 and 94. The light pollution is pretty much eliminated that. We can still get some beautiful skies out there, but you know, it was a wonderful place to raise our children. You know, they could ride the streets on their bicycles and not worry about anything. The township takes care of things very well. As mentioned, our streets are plowed almost immediately. You know, we have children that live in the city of Eau Claire, and during the winter, it's you know, wagon ruts and potholes. That's all it is. My understanding is that the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation advised against the recent annexation. I mean, the city annexed 2 miles from the border of the city, basically to a land grab. And my understanding also is that the density population per square mile for the annexation on top of the hill there by the apple orchard, that's double of what the city of Eau Claire has in their own growth plans. So they're basically dropping a little mini city in the middle of this rural area, and then we're gonna have to deal with all the property. I got one thing that really struck me in their presentation was when they talked about inclusivity and that we're a primarily white community. I don't know what that has to do with anything. We don't have any signs on the borders, but it was really rich when you look at the makeup of the all-inclusive city.
John Penny, followed by Joshua Miller.
Evening, my name is Don Henning. I live at 4900 Cedar Road. Maybe a little different perspective. I grew up in the town of Washington. I've lived in the town of Washington the majority of my 56 years currently. When I grew up, I went to Robbins School. I played Little League Baseball with Low Creek Little League. At that time, the park or the ball field was at the Robbins School, and then later, obviously, it's moved. When I turned 18, I joined the fire department here in the town of Washington. We were in a different building before we came here, obviously. I served 30 years with the volunteer fire department, and very proud of that time. And yes, we worked with the city of Eau Claire at times. We helped them on numerous occasions with the fires that they have within the city. And yes, they've helped us with fires. The fire community has helped each other with a variety of calls throughout our region. I also worked for the sheriff's office here in Eau Claire County for just shy of 28 years. And I can tell you that traveling, and especially in the wintertime, there are certain townships and certain parts of the county that were easy, and you kind of look forward to being assigned to that patrol area because you knew you could get someplace. And then there's certain areas and certain cities within our county that it was difficult to navigate, to maneuver with a Ford Crown Victoria two-wheel drive car in the wintertime. We raised our two boys here in the town of Washington. They also went to Robbins School. I also played baseball. Not that I forced them, but that was a choice that they wanted to do. Before they went to school, they provided daycare services at Little Bloomers Daycare, which is a pretty fantastic daycare facility just south of 93 and I in the town of Washington. We enjoy a variety of activities here in our township. The Little League Park, Lowe's Creek Park, Trillium Neighborhood Trails, Robbins School and things it has to offer at the school and the playground, and this building here, the municipal building. We primarily try and direct our support, whether we're buying goods, services, products, food, beverage, to businesses in the town of Washington. For example, the corner store down at 93 and Quick Trip, the one of, 26 that are in our community, but the one on Bryan Street specifically, Pet Foods Plus, Davidson Bean Coffee and Ice Cream, Jelstead Plumbing, Bracket Bar, and the Glass Orchard. Myself, and I know a lot of other people in this room and a lot of people that I've known over the years in the town of Washington, we're very, proud of our community. And that was never more evident than if you go to a chicken feed or a fundraiser in this building or in our previous fire department building, and just the sense of community, the pride, and the sharing of the great living and the great area that we have was very clear, and it repeats itself annually or when those functions are held.
Thank you, sir. Your time's up. Councilor Miller, followed by Robert Hooper.
Thank you, members of the board. My name is Dr. Miller. I currently serve in the Eau Claire City Council. Eric Miller, Senior Legislative Attorney for the Wisconsin Legislative Reference Bureau, authored a document in 2020 titled The Municipal Annexation Process in Wisconsin. He opened with the following thesis. Annexation is the principal method by which Wisconsin cities grow in physical size and not incidentally by which towns shrink. That is the prescribed order of municipal growth. The petition of the town of Washington to incorporate into the village is inconsistent with this progression. The city of Eau Claire is the anchor of the area and the entity that can be best provide municipal services to the residents. This has been proven by the stream of annexations initiated by property owners exercising their rights as property owners to join into the city. Nobody living in the town of Washington will ever be forced to join the city of Eau Claire if they do not choose to do so. The petition includes territories in the city's sewer service area, tongue twister. Anticipated population growth and the needs of future residents require compact development where facilities will be ready for property owners and developers to readily connect and expand. This petition would foreclose on these opportunities and would stymie growth in this region. The petition raises significant environmental concerns, including developmental sprawl of large lots leading to habitat and woodland loss and danger of groundwater contamination from the use of private septic systems next to a beloved creek. The city offers the sanitary services along with the professional services of police, fire, and EMS for areas near our borders that are now becoming new neighborhoods. The town and the city entered into an intergovernmental agreement, which was explicitly stated that the land in the sewer service area is expected over time to annex into the city. Additionally, the town agreed to work with the city to enter into a cooperative boundary agreement. This position would jettison the mutual public planning between the town and the city of Eau Claire. The present agreements between the city and the town allow for more compact housing, including multifamily housing, which are less expensive to build to help the housing crisis, and better proximity to city services while still having an abundance of land for semi-rural, large homes in the remaining portion of the town, and preserving the truly rural agricultural lands. Aside from my previous points, the petition is unlawful because it would not create a compact and homogeneous boundary. It would not offer logical borders. It would not deliver local government services. This petition does not meet the rule of reason in Wisconsin State Statute 1666. For these reasons, statutory noncompliance, breach of agreement, and adverse regional impacts, the town board should withdraw its petition and resume practices consistent with existing agreements with the city of Eau Claire and the town of Washington. This course of action aligns with Wisconsin law, honors contractual commitments, and serves as a long-term interest of the region. And furthermore, once again, every person that has annexed into the city of Eau Claire has done so on their own volition, and nobody who would not want to join the city of Eau Claire would ever be required to do so and can still maintain their residence in the town of Washington. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Robert Hooper, followed by William Glass.
Hi, Robert Cooper. I live at 5450 Choke Cherry Road, and we've lived out there for about 38 years. We moved from the city of Eau Claire on the south side, a relatively nice area, to the town of Washington, specifically because of the quality of life that we have in the town of Washington. When the city comes out into the town of Washington and they want to develop, what do? They clear cut. They bring in the bulldozers. They flatten the land. The town of Washington, if you noticed on the maps, has a very distinctive physiography to it. It's different than the city of Eau Claire. We live on sandstone hills. We have very steep topography, and we love it. It's not meant. If the city of Eau Claire comes out, what they do is they clear it, and then they put the highest density housing in they can. We enjoy our birds. We enjoy our wildlife. We enjoy my clean water. I'd much rather have the water out of my well than the water from the city's water. Low densities. But we like it that way. I can walk out on my deck and actually still see the stars because I'm far enough away from the city. Please consider this. Please consider this request for incorporation of a village. The residents here really need that in order to protect ourselves from the encroachment of a type of lifestyle that we don't want to live.
William Glass, followed by Dr. Mattson, Director Mattson, CPA.
Hello, my name is Will Glass and I live in the town of Washington at 6056 Inwood Drive for the last 12 years. I'm here to support the township's effort to incorporate into a village. I am in favor of incorporation for one simple reason. I believe we deserve representation and a voice in what is happening in our community and in our neighborhood. As you're all aware, the city of Eau Claire recently annexed a large swath of land from the town of Washington. That process was enlightening as a business owner in the city of Eau Claire for nearly 20 years. As someone who spent several years as a commissioner on the city's plan commission, and as someone who has in the past viewed the city of Eau Claire as a partner. During the annexation process, I reached out to all 11 members of the city council asking to meet in order to voice concerns over road safety, impacts on our schools, the fiscal implications of a development miles outside of town, and how the annexation flew in the face of the city's own comprehensive plan, which I was a part of working on back in 2014. Only 2 of the 11 responded, and only 1 of them took the time to meet with me. Our voices were largely ignored by city staff and the city council during that entire process. Instead, what we heard at the city council meeting was the city needs to grow to increase its tax base to get out of a budget mess. As a business owner in the city of Eau Claire, I can say without a shadow of a doubt that something has changed in the city over the last handful of years. I mentioned just a moment ago that I used to see the city as a partner. Unfortunately, that feeling no longer exists, but has been replaced with one of an adversarial neighbor. With few exceptions, interactions with the city of Eau Claire are combative as opposed to collaborative. And if I could pick up my land and business downtown and move them to any of the adjacent municipalities, I would. The last time I went to a city of Eau Claire council chambers meeting, it was to speak as a former board member of the Downtown Eau Claire Incorporated to support their intention to remove themselves from being associated with the city and operate independently because of their voices being ignored and their intentions being overruled. The city of Eau Claire has ignored its business community, its constituents, and its surrounding neighbors. In fact, even in the case of this annexation in Orchard Hills, the Department of Administration said the annexation was not in the best interest of the public, but the city did it anyway. Most of what we heard in the initial presentation sounded like a lot of hypocrisy to me. The same arguments made for the reason why they should take the land out of the town of Washington, they're using now to say that we shouldn't be able to do what we want here in the town of Washington. So why would anyone who has a choice choose to be underrepresented or ignored? I've been to town of Washington meetings. I've personally met with a handful of supervisors over the years and can say with certainty that I choose their representation to govern this future municipality 10 times out of 10 over what I've experienced firsthand with the city of Eau Claire over the last 7 to 8 years. To wrap up, I don't want to be governed by individuals or staff who are trying to build a resume, advance an ideology, or fix a budgetary shortfall. I want my representation to be a neighbor who listens and one who can balance a budget. We too could have all these fancy amenities. All we need to do is go $250 million into debt.
Thank you, sir.
Keisha Wilson-Matson, followed by Abby Fuchs.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Lucretia Wilson-Matson. I'm a CPA. My husband, John, and I have lived at 3570 Cypress Street for 47 years. We've seen a lot of changes over the years. We like the idea of the incorporation to be able to control our own destiny. The board members, the supervisors care about us. They're our neighbors, they're our friends. When we had the tornado go through, when we had the high wind problem, casualty going through, they were there immediately to help make sure that we were safe, that we were okay, and were helping us make arrangements to get cleaned up. They cared. They work with us to make us better in this whole area. At several hearings on development on the annexed properties that theoretically were voluntarily annexed to Eau Claire, we were concerned about some of the effects on our neighborhood, especially the traffic with the younger kids and the school buses going through. When we identified that we were town of Washington, we were told very plainly, oh, you're town of Washington, we don't care what you think, go away, don't bother us. I have a hard, difficult time thinking that city council members and their different committee members are changing their attitude to really care about us in town of Washington. So because town of Washington seems to care about what we are doing and how we are behaving and what affects us. I urge you to have the petition approved.
Abby Fuchs, followed by Brian Nolbach.
Abby had to leave.
Okay, Abby had to leave. Brian Nolbach, followed by Jerry Zimmerman.
Good evening, members of the board. I appreciate your time. My name is Brian Notoff. I'm an attorney by practice. For 22 years, I represented towns, villages, and small cities. I also represent developers and go through those processes. I've been involved for those times in regional planning, zoning, and a number of those items. I don't have a dog in this fight in the sense of I don't live in this community and I don't have a project pending. But I do have a few things I would like to share as a member of the public that does interact with both of these governments. One of the first things I heard from, and I'm speaking in opposition to the petition in its current form, and I'll expand on that in a moment. One of the comments I heard from Representative Hurd is that she heard that or knew that people were forced into annexation. I can tell you one of my clients was forced into annexation, but not for the reason that was alluded to. They were a happy town resident and owned property in the town. Their fear was that if they were forced into the village, they would be limited in what they could do with their property in the future from a development perspective. Without the proper municipal resources, they had a property that long-term they looked at from a development perspective or were fearful that that would have a decrease in their value. So they felt they had no choice but to annex into the city because of the pending consideration of village incorporation. So that cuts a very different way than was presented here. And I think it's to get, when I say I'm opposed to this in its current form, it's because I appreciate everything that's being talked about. I live in the town of Red Cedar. I unfortunately will live a quarter mile from a new Amazon center and maybe a mile from a data center. So all of the comments here are very relevant to what landowners and property owners need to consider when they choose their government and choose not to do that. My comments are, if you want to be a village, act like a village. And I say that because 660207 requires reasonable municipal services and a reasonable boundary. No reasonable person in the industry would consider that shape and size of a municipality for its size to be a reasonable. It is a clear blocking mechanism. When I say it's a blocking mechanism, landowners have their own individual rights to say whether or not they want to choose to be in one municipality or the other. And that is what is being prevented by the way this is drafted. The other comment I would make is municipal services are essential to good, orderly development. I'm not opposed to the village of Washington existing, but if you want to be a village, have water and sewer and stormwater facilities. You will get good development with those resources. And I see my time is up. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you, sir. Jerry Zimmerman, followed by David Fetzik. And then Jay Mueller. Jerry?
Hello, my name is Jerry Zimmerman. I live at 5619 US Highway 53. I lived there for 72 years, my whole life. Been married to my wife for 52 years, right? Raised my family. I have 3 daughters. They all have homes in the town of Washington. I live on a century farm. It's been in the family for 115 years. Right now, the city of Eau Claire has annexed land within a quarter mile of my property, of my century farm. I remember when I was a kid, we were 5 miles from Eau Claire. They have marched out Highway 53 from Eau Claire, taken agriculture land, farm after farm after farm from the city of Eau Claire all the way out to Equity Livestock. And I've seen that happen, and it's very disturbing. And you see my concern when they're within a quarter mile of my home. And I think that what has happened is they just keep moving and moving and moving, and we just have to find a way to stop this. And I have belonged to a snowmobile club. We have built recreation in the town of Washington in Eau Claire County. We built recreation for snowmobiles, which the city of Eau Claire does not acknowledge, doesn't accept snowmobiling at all. We have a UTV route system on our roads now. The city does not accept that at all. Unless you have a bicycle, they will accept that and build routes throughout the city and everywhere for a bicycle. So we have a great town of Washington, and we have recreation. We have a beautiful landscape. We have everyone that lives here, the quality of life is wonderful. And how do you replace that when I've had to talk to so many people to try to get a snowmobile system routing when there are one home after another home where it used to be all farmland and all farmers to talk to one. Now we have to talk to about 10 different people. We just have to cut back on some of the people and keep our farming community. And I really urge for the town of Washington to petition on the petition to incorporate as a village. Please, thank you.
David Benson, followed by Jay Mueller. David?
Dave Benson, I'm gonna fast.
Okay. Thank you. Followed by Michelle.
My name is Jane Mueller. I live at 7525 Mueller Road. At the very end of the town of Washington. So I am in what we'll call the remnant. I've lived there for 45 years. My husband's family has been there since 1896. I'm here first to celebrate the fact that yesterday, it was 252 years ago that the Boston Tea Party happened. And that was because why? They didn't have voice and they didn't have representation. So we're here. We're not going to be throwing any tea in the Chippewa, but we are here to voice our consternation at the fact that even though the city says that they're extraterritorial isn't, doesn't affect us, it does all the time. I am also a 10-year member of this town board, and we have to deal with that on a regular basis. We don't have the lack of recourse for this continuing aggressive annexation of our municipality affects us every day. Every decision that the town board makes has to deal with the fact that the city has encroached again and again. Even when we started the petition to move forward, when there was a lag in time where the petition wasn't in effect yet, they came and scooped up more land in a matter of a couple weeks. So we don't have the wherewithal to say stop. When they're arguing about the shape of the continuity of the northern border of it's not our fault. It's not our fault. It was the city taking another chunk and another chunk and another chunk so that it looks like that. The reason that those little pieces are still there is because the people that are there said, no, we want to stay in the town of Washington. I'm very proud to sit on a board that is so financially responsible. If you come to our budget hearing last month, you can see that our budget is balanced. We have money in the bank that we put towards our contingency funds for our but just thank you, and I urge you to accept this petition.
Followed by Tammy Jackson. Michelle. Hi, Tammy Jackson. So Tammy followed by Mike Rinto. Followed by John Anderson.
Good evening. I'll make this brief. My name is Tammy Jackson. I reside at 4502 Ridgedale Road with my husband, Dan. We lived in the town of Washington for the past 33 years. I'm in support of maintaining local control through incorporation. One of the requirements for incorporation is that the community has the ability to offer and sustain appropriate services. Both Dan and I have been honored to work for Mayo Clinic as registered nurses. Dan worked in the OR where he was often responsible for responding to emergency and trauma with a 20-minute response time. Throughout those 33 years as residents of this township, we have not worried one time about the road conditions or the ability to get out where we needed to for emergency situation. We live within 2 miles of Highway 93 and always had well-plowed and maintained roads even during the worst storms. I will tell you that we often navigated roads which were much more difficult to navigate entering into the city of Eau Claire. We can also attest to excellent services both current and fire and EMS services provide, and although that has multiple challenges have been discussed tonight, we can also attest to the excellent services and response time by bringing residents to our local healthcare facilities. We appreciate that level of service. We've been blessed to live in this township. We purchased our home and welcome to the added responsibility that comes with maintaining a well and a septic system. I too value the water that I drink every day. Maintaining the township's character is important to us. We value the lifestyle, which has been spoken about many times tonight, with more space than the city might offer. We have cherished raising our 2 children on our 9-acre hobby farm. The ability to embrace both 4-H and FFA values and the lifelong bonds that have been forged by common school districts and organizations. I strongly urge the approval of the town of Washington's petition to incorporate into a village. Thank you.
Mike Rinto, followed by John Anderson.
Good evening, my name is Mike Grindle. My wife Pam and I have lived at 5920 Crocus Lane for the past 29 years. With the recent annexation, our Crocus Lane and Trillium Drive neighborhood is now sandwiched between the city limit to the north and the city park to the south on County Highway II. Incorporation of our portion of the town of Washington into the village of Washington would end the egregious type of annexation that has recently occurred and bring certainty to appropriate land planning and use. The high-density Orchard Hills and Evergreen developments will be in direct conflict with the comprehensive plans of the town, the county, and the city, and those developments were approved by the city, even though the Wisconsin Department of Administration determined the annexation was not in the public interest. We heard a lot this evening from the city of Eau Claire about the importance of affordable housing, but from what we're told, a starter home in these new developments will cost $500,000. That is not affordable. For those of us now living in such close proximity to the newly drawn city limit, incorporation would bring peace of mind about the future of our property and neighborhood because our elected representatives, not city council members who we do not elect, will be responsible for land use policy decisions. As I said, we did not elect the city of Eau Claire council members But they decided to annex the land that now is going to bring a high density development within a quarter mile of our neighborhood. Furthermore, incorporation into a village would strengthen the greater Eau Claire metropolitan area because it would establish clearer boundaries and reduce friction between various local governments caused by piecemeal annexation and other land use disputes. Developers and businesses would also be better served because they will have a clearer understanding of predictable and appropriate land use. Finally, I'd like to comment on services the town has provided for us for the many years we've lived in our home. Snow plowing, as you've heard tonight, is always prompt. Emergency services, the few times we've used them, have been responsive and timely. Our street has been rebuilt and repaved with no assessment to property owners. And talk about personal service. Several years ago, when we experienced that major wet, heavy snowfall, a number of huge trees came down in our neighborhood and crossed the street. We couldn't even get out of the neighborhood. Within minutes of calling the town office to report the downed trees, none other than town administrator Janelle Henning showed up driving a snowplow to push the trees off the street. Those trees were promptly cut up and removed by fellow town employees. Approving Washington's incorporation would ensure that we retain those first-rate government services, provide clear and consistent planning and land use, and strengthen the greater metropolitan area through better defined land use policy. We urge strong approval. Thank you.
John Anderson, followed by Jennifer Meyer, followed by John Roosh.
Good evening. My name is John Anderson. I live at 11618 40th Avenue in the village of Eau Claire. I was the lead petitioner regarding the incorporation of the village of Eau Claire from 1999 to 2000. I was served with so many court papers. I had the city of Eau Claire squad cars in my driveway once a week, and the city of Chippewa Falls squad cars in my driveway every other week. I'll be submitting later paper testimony regarding the comparison between the village of Eau Claire and the proposed village of Washington. A couple things I heard today are repetitive, to say the least. First of all, no offense to the city of Eau Claire, I'm shocked you disapprove. But the city of Eau Claire raised these issues regarding the village of Lake Cal 23 years ago, almost verbatim. In fact, it was so bad that you would think civilization ended where the village of Lake Cal. A couple of specific things I heard today. First of all, Eau Claire Fire covers the emergency medical ambulance for almost all of Eau Claire County. They are the sole provider except Mayo Medical Service. So the village of Washington, it won't make any difference. Okay. Also, regarding fire suppression, I've been with the Chippewa Fire District 49 years. I respect every fire department in the area. I was a state fire prevention coordinator. Yes, there are differences between urban and rural departments. But one thing is never said, the career department has 100 people, 66 of them are always off. You only have one shift off on the top. Also regarding mutual aid, this area is abolished boundary lines when it comes to fire. I have been in the city of Eau Claire, they have been in the village of Lake Cal. We don't care, we help each other. Same thing with street crews. This will all get settled. One other thing, no fire department in the state can handle everything by itself anymore. Budgets and things like that are restricted. The village of Washington will do fine. Regarding the Washington Heights Sanitary District, one thing was not mentioned. That crisis occurred because the manager embezzled the Jesus on it. It wasn't a flaw of Washington. It got embezzled. That was not. dictated, and maybe the folks here don't. Now, regarding this annexation.
Time is up, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Followed by John Roosh.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Meyer. I live at 6618 Mueller Road, which is just outside of the proposed incorporation area, but in the town of Washington. I serve as the appointed clerk treasurer for the town of Pleasant Valley, located directly south of the area under consideration. I am here tonight in support of incorporation, and I speak from the perspective of a neighboring municipality that works closely with the town of Washington. The town of Washington has long been a leader and collaborative partner in local government. It participates in our 5 municipalities shared fire department. We share public works assets, and our offices regularly support one another. Because Washington is larger than many surrounding towns, it has consistently been a valuable resource to the region. I am confident that both the proposed village and the remaining town will remain strong supportive partners within Eau Claire County. Incorporation would be a significant milestone. Washington is currently the 9th largest town in the state by population, and the proposed area already contains nearly all of the components of an established village, including manufacturing, retail, churches, recreation, easy access to education, government services, and housing. It is a naturally balanced transition from urban to rural land use. However, the town has also been a casualty of annexations from surrounding cities, which erodes local control. Extraterritorial jurisdiction and sewer service areas controlled by the city of Eau Claire restrict Washington's ability to follow its own comprehensive plan. This is, in many ways, land use regulation without representation. Incorporation directly addresses these challenges. It eliminates the restrictive ETJ, removes Eau Claire's ability to annex additional land, and protects the character of the area from further fragmentation. Most importantly, it restores local control over zoning and land use, ensuring that the community itself decides its future. The benefits extend beyond Washington. Incorporation will maintain meaningful continuity in the southeast portion of the county, especially along the Highway 93 corridor, which enters directly into Pleasant Valley. Our comprehensive plans are aligned, and the transition between our communities already makes sense. Both towns are committed to responsible cooperative regional growth. Finally, Washington is a well-managed, forward-thinking governing body. Incorporation will preserve the area's identity and homogeneity, maintain easy access to schools, retail, and services, and ensure that residents continue receiving a high level of service. It will strengthen community identity and support long-term stability for the entire metropolitan area. For all of these reasons, I strongly support the proposed incorporation. This decision will not only protect the community's character, but will strengthen the entire Eau Claire County region. Thank you.
John Rouge, followed by Sue Vandeloo. Followed by Mr. White.
Hello, my name is John Rouge. My wife and I have lived at 6960 Walnut Road in the town of Washington for the past 39 years. I'm here to speak about the proposed boundaries and how they reflect true identity of the future village. Although there is a primary business core within the boundaries, the majority of the village is rural and or farming. We like the current natural setting that we live in, as do our neighbors and friends. Therefore, we believe that the proposed village would give us more voice in future developments. The proposed map fits well with how people live here and talk about Washington when they talk about where they live. Residents and businesses inside the boundaries operate in a unified area and common interest. Even though my taxes may increase, I feel that I would have more say in how the land management is directed to maintain the current natural beauty and comfort that we have within our present community. In closing, the proposed boundaries match the real community on the ground. I urge for the approval to formalize this identity through incorporation. Thank you.
Followed by Mr. White.
Hello, I am Sue Vandeloo. I live at 3805 Patton Street, which is included in the proposed village here in town of Washington. My husband and I moved here 30 years ago with family. We originally rented in Eau Claire, and when we saw the property for sale in the town of Washington, we snapped it right up. We chose to raise 4 kids here, and now our grandchildren are enjoying the property. Several times along the way, with a growing family and job shifts, the topic of moving came up, and we looked seriously, but in the end did not want to give up living in the town of Washington. We choose to live here because we want to live in a less dense area, still close to parks and trails and nearby jobs, shopping and services, many of which we find right in the town. One of the criteria for incorporation is whether we are a homogeneous, unified community with shared characteristics. From my experience, the proposed village area in the town of Washington definitely is. There's a similar landscape in the village area, similar development style and culture in all of our neighborhoods that identify us as a separate community from our neighboring communities. In my attempt to remain active, I frequent the Y. When small talk recently turned to where we live, and a couple of us identified the town of Washington, the response was, "What a great place. And you are lucky to live there." Nobody had to say which part of the town of Washington do you live in. They know because of the homogeneous character. We value a lifestyle that requires a bit more space than can easily be found in the city. The idea of zoning changes popular in the city to allow multifamily development in a wooded area such as across the street from our house is simply not in the character of the area of the town of Washington. Yes, we have a larger lot, which means room for a relatively large garden, a well-utilized swing set, and a perfect space for the frequent kickball, hide-and-seek, scavenger hunt, and campfires that went along with raising kids and their visiting friends from the city. We didn't have the space. The less dense space also involves more responsibility on our part in the form of raking and shoveling and blowing snow and leaves and mowing, along with maintaining our own private septic system. Of course, we wish to maintain optimal health and water safety for ourselves and our neighbors. The level of services we currently receive is perfect for our lifestyle. The nearby parks, shopping, and services we find in town add to our enjoyment. Season passes at Lowe's Creek Park, a regular annual purchase, and our favorite shopping supports many, well, my gardening addiction, and regular haircuts and coffee shop trips, to name a few. And those are all within the proposed village limits. Our community is already one and unified. Incorporation simply aligns the legal structure with the community we live in every day. We have a unique gem of a place to live, work, and grow, and I strongly urge approval of the incorporation petition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jeffrey White, followed by Deborah Schultz.
Yes, thank you for letting me speak today. My name is Jeff White. I live at 6731 Lowe's Creek Court. I lived in the township for 24 years. I'm a Navy veteran. I have a business, and I'm currently in the town board. I love this township. How many people in this audience want to see their taxes go up 4 times? Not many. And also, when you talk to an attorney, believe probably half of what you hear, if that much. Brian, you know what I'm talking about. I praise companies, and I praise a lot of real estate throughout the country. One of the biggest problems with when you're valuing a business is long-term debt, big debt, like the city of Eau Claire. I did some testimony in the Madison about a year ago, and I asked about growth. And the city manager of Racine had the gall to say, well, we need to grow because otherwise we're going to die. I said, well, what does that got to do? And I think it has to do more with the management of that facility than it has to do with that. Come on, people, common sense. We're all trying to understand what common sense means nowadays. I have one last comment. When you have a city like the city of Eau Claire that's so debt deep, why should they be able to tell us what's fiscally responsible? Seriously, when they can't even take care of their own home, why would they be able to just take care of them? It's hard to be responsible, right? That's my job.
Deborah Schultz, followed by James Schultz, followed by Dan Bauman.
Hello, I'm Deb Schultz, same address as my husband Jim, coming up next. And we relocated to an island in the town of Washington 13 and a half years ago. Services our town provides today and maintaining local control through incorporation is extremely important for our future. Many of us here tonight are very connected to the town of Washington. One requirement is whether the community can offer and provide appropriate services. Just a few of the services the town already provides consistently and responsibly: reliable road maintenance and snow removal. In fact, the town of Washington took action to clear the new walking path along State Street of snow well before the city of Eau Claire fulfilled their obligation for the small portion that is the city's responsibility. Responsive, safe, and effective fire and EMS partnerships, that's mutual aid. And there's a difference between available and dedicated resources and more effective, frankly, than unfilled jobs. That comes along with strong planning and sound financial management in alignment with community priorities. Lastly, accessible, professional, and sound financial leadership and management in Town of Washington staff who are responsive and care about the residents of the Town of Washington. Specifically for us, we were closed off from State Street, our main thoroughfare, during an extensive road project, for which the city of Eau Claire's motive for being involved in that project was selfish, clear, and irresponsible. Communication was timely from the town of Washington, and we were truly in partnership as far as town of Washington resources and project leaders in determining and maintaining our access, including our ability for services like garbage collection, fire, and ambulance, so that they could reach us. We want to protect these partnerships by becoming a village rather than have decisions made outside of our jurisdiction. We want to preserve the services, and we value the town of Washington as we become a village. We already function like one in terms of services. Incorporation ensures that we continue delivering services at levels residents expect. I respectfully urge the approval of the incorporation petition. It is not worst case. The petition supports smart work for the broad region. Thank you, Incorporation Review Board.
Jim Schultz, followed by Dan Bauman.
I'm Jim Schultz. I live at 3606 Tamarack Lane. I'm not going to be as polished as my wife, but a couple things. Last week, I got up after the snowstorm, and our road was plowed. Now, we contract in Tamarack. We're a private condo association, but we contract with the town of Washington. I just noticed that Patton Street behind us was plowed, as was Corydon Park. I went down the street. My sister-in-law is building a new house just off Westover, and that's City Street, and that had yet to be plowed. And I followed up, checking on her excavation on her lot site later on in that day, and it still hadn't been plowed. So the city, talking about all their resources and all their staff, still was unable to get a street like Westover plowed in a timely fashion. For the township had both Patton Street, the Cortland Park streets and our street plowed early in the morning. A couple other things. I want to put a few things in historical perspective. They talked about the transition from the sanitary district and this water and sewer moving to the city. I think in 1983, the city had built a brand new waste treatment plant, and they were looking for revenues to fund that. So they negotiated the deal with the township. I think the main interceptor line that fed that waste treatment plant ran down Grover Road, the majority of it being at that time in the town of Washington. So there was some negotiations which lowered the cost for the city to supply their sewer line to that waste facility on the other side of the Chippewa River. Another point, trusting the city engineering department, them being, infallible, is a little hard for me to understand. Back in 1999, we had a major rainstorm in the city. And I think it was early September. And because of poor stormwater management, the northern end of the city, up where the West Campus where the tech school is, that area was closed, I think, for a period of a week due to flooding and poor storm management control. And there were several neighborhoods in town that were also affected. And along with that, they had to buy a complete city block and make a storm retention area in Putnam Heights, and I think another one on the west side of town. So I don't have a lot of faith in the city's planning relative to that. I also serve on the review board here at the township, and when we plan things out, everything has to meet state requirements and all the things required to do a development. And we cover all those details in great detail. And I think with that, my 3 minutes is probably over, but please support our petition. Oh, one other quick note, I was one collecting petitions. I went down Patton Street, the Tamarack neighborhood, Cortland Park, and Pine Place. And it surprised me, Pine Place has no water or sewer, and the entire neighborhood was for the village. Thank you.
Dylan Green, followed by Warren Petrick.
Hello, my name is Dan Bellman. I'm at 4014 Talmadge Road, and I appreciate you all coming out to hear what the town residents have to say. I know your job is detailed, it's technical, and a lot of it is based in law. So coming out and hearing the emotional part is something that we all appreciate, so thank you. I've personally worked in my professional career with the City of La Crosse staff for a couple decades, and I can't say enough positive things about city staff. They're committed, they're dedicated, they're professional, and they do their best every day to meet the expectations of the people within the city of Eau Claire that they represent. Our town leadership and administration, in my observation, is the same way. They're willing to listen to the people that they represent, the folks who elect them. And it seems like the conflict here is that the citizens within the town don't feel like they have a voice. They don't have representation. So when you see something like Orchard Hill comes forward, subdivision, you get 300 people in this room, and our poor town board has to tell them we can only do so much. And it forces down a path, my understanding is that it forces down a path of incorporation. If the town residents or voting public here in the town of Washington are gonna have a voice, incorporation seems like the only alternative here, much like you're probably hearing in the town of Campbell with the city of La Crosse. Having worked with those folks for years on some of the intergovernmental challenges, and it's not about the staff, it's about the priorities within those jurisdictions or those municipalities. So until that changes, and I applaud Representative Hurd for trying hard to change the law to allow some of this stuff in those things. Until that point, this seems like the only direction a township has, a town, residents within a town to pursue to be heard. So with that, I would urge you to allow this petition to move forward to referendum. Let the voices of the residents of the town be heard. Maybe it'll come out positive, maybe it won't. But until we get to that point, we surely won't know. Again, thank you for coming out, and I appreciate your time.
So Dylan Green?
You didn't want to speak.
All right, Warren Petrick. And then I see we have a hand raised online. Does that person wish to testify? Thomas?
Yes,
Warren,
ma'am.
would you like to start?
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you to the distinguished members of this board for having this hearing. It certainly is appreciated, and thank you to all the respected citizens, many of whom I can call my friends, due to the fact that in another life I was representing them at the state level, and it was truly an honor and privilege to be there in Madison on your behalf. My experience while I was there, my name is Warren Patrick, I'm sorry, 239 Corbin Road. I am a resident of the town of Washington and very, very proud to have them at the helm. We have some wonderful leaders here. My experience with the town is always, when I was in there for, as I say, 14 years, taught me very valuable lessons on how local governance is the best governance. It truly is. Things happen at that level that I could only dream of happening with my 99 colleagues. It was interesting to watch the process, but when those of you that serve on towns know exactly what that is. You know your neighbors. They have your number. They can get a hold of you, and you have great representation at that level. Some of the finest people that I have ever met in my life were those who stepped into supervisory positions at the town's boards, and that vital work helped with policy challenges that stem from differences of opinion on how certain laws apply to local situations. In nearly every case, I found that the leaders of the towns would put their common sense hats on, provide reasonable, intelligent, and amicable solutions to a wide myriad of problems and opportunities. Town of Washington is uniquely cohesive, ladies and gentlemen. People that care deeply for one another. They care for their neighbors, their families, their friends. When help's needed, they're the first ones to drop everything and say, what do you need, where, how much, and when? The efficient and effective town structure and its employees have proven over many decades their outstanding ability to work collaboratively and creatively with their neighboring towns, their neighboring villages, county, and city on a multitude of problems, and you've heard it from many of the citizens, so I won't repeat a lot of the detail work, but always the potential for growth is there. For opportunities are exacerbated by their efforts. And so when we collaborate, everything works out better. Dozens of highly successful businesses call Washington their home, and they like the friendliness, the encouraging neighborhood. Our task today is very straightforward. Please, distinguished members of this board, grant approval to our town of Washington's petition to incorporate as a village and give the residents, us, the chance to vote as a cohesive and unique voice to determine our own destiny as a governmental unit. That is my simple ask, and it's a win-win situation. We're not at war with the city of Eau Claire. Certainly they are our partners in many, many efforts, and we want to continue to have a healthy relationship with them for a brighter future, more opportunity, more improvements for the quality of our lives here in this beautiful part of Wisconsin that we call our home. Thank you.
You'd like to testify?
This is Thomas, yes.
Go ahead.
All right, my name is Thomas Hunt. I live at 3611 Pine Place. We were referenced as one of the members or residents of Pine Place by a former speaker. We are all in favor of the petition to incorporate as well. We do have our own private septic, and we accept that responsibility. We maintain it if there's necessary requirements. We previously lived in the town of Washington at 2125 Andrew Drive, right across from Will Glass, who spoke earlier this evening as well. Once that annexation occurred and we began to see the effects of that, we lived a quarter of a mile away. We decided to move from that residence because we saw what was coming down the road. We had the opportunity to purchase within the city of Eau Claire. We've identified a couple of properties. We also identified this place, 3611 Pine Place, is within the town of Washington, and this is where we chose. We're fully in support of the incorporation of the town of Washington to the village. Please support us. We enjoy the community. Everyone in Pine Place here is in lockstep with that. Thanks.
Thank you. Stephen, Tina Ball, followed by Brian Binzak.
Brian. Of course I was a dad.
Mr. Hunt, you may want to go on mute again. Tina Ball.
Good evening. My name is Tina Ball and my family and I live at 5999 Cato Road. And thank you all for coming to share. My family has lived here for 33 years in 3 different homes, all in the town of Washington. We started out adjacent to the city of Altoona and moved from there to a house adjacent to the town of Pleasant Valley. And now our home is essentially adjacent to the town of Brunswick, meaning we've lived all over the township. And we haven't seen any sort of fragmentation at all between what the services we get from this town, our neighbors, and the quality of life that we've shared. I wanted to take my time to describe some of what we've experienced over the last 33 years as township residents. First off, and this has been mentioned earlier, we've seen the town administrator get behind the wheel of a plow truck on numerous occasions when we've had record snowfalls to ensure we're all safe and we can get to where we need to be on clean roadways. We've seen the town respond immediately to pick up debris dumped out here by students moving out of their apartments every spring. I'm talking about couches, televisions, microwaves, clothing, and last year a fake fireplace. One call to the town of Washington, and that stuff is removed and taken care of. We all take great pride in the cleanliness of our town. We have many town residents walk along the roadways out here every spring, picking up garbage that appears as our snow melts. We've witnessed the town's decision makers exercising responsible, disciplined fiscal management and strategic decision making to ultimately now become a debt-free municipality. We've also seen firsthand what happens to our beautiful, clean, well-maintained township when we lose control of our land and our zoning. Most notably, the seizure of the land by a 1/2 approval annexation that occurred recently that will now permit the city to build over 1,500 housing units on just 235 acres in the middle of a peaceful rural community. That means the city will put a population equivalent to nearly half the town's current population on just over 200 acres, severely jeopardizing the safety of town residents and destroying the rural character we all embrace and have worked so hard to create. As a result of the annexation, we've also seen a glimpse into our future should the town lose control of its land use and zoning decisions. That is, ditches not being mowed, snow not being plowed, roads turning into ice rinks as the city enforces its rules to only plow residential areas when there's been 3 inches of snow or more. I plan on sharing pictures in my written comments comparing a town road after a snowfall event to the adjacent city road that was in the town and became the city's responsibility after the annexation. There is absolutely no comparison. My written comments will also include specific examples of severe fiscal mismanagement by the city, as well as significant mismanagement by the city of its own infrastructure, including a 100 million gallon raw sewage leak into the Chippewa River. The city is not responsible for its own infrastructure. That leak went unnoticed for 11 months. 11 months. I will wrap up by strongly urging you to please approve the town of Washington's petition to incorporate it. And I will be following up with written comments and some more details on some other things that I would like to express. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you. Brian, followed by Peggy Kincaid. Brian, followed by Peggy Kincaid, then Catherine White.
All right, good evening. My name is Brian Binzak. I live at 1815 Sousa Drive, Washington. Been a resident of the Township of Washington for 27 years. I am here in support of our petition to incorporate as a village because this is about preserving our community and our tax base. Over the last 3 years, the nearby city annexations have begun to divide our township, both economically and physically. These annexations have taken the form of narrow corridors and peninsulas that carve through our township and are on the verge of fragmenting a once continuous community. With each loss, our tax base and our sense of community erodes. The most recent city annexation created an island within the township, accessible only by driving 2 miles on township roads to get to it. This had strong public opposition and was one of the few annexations that received not in public interest by the DOA, by your team. In the last 2 years, there were 5 that received that nomenclature out of 168. 2 of those were this annexation for the city of Eau Claire. So despite that, and the state and the DOA's comment on this land to be best supported by staying in the township, it still got annexed. And I also wanted to comment, there was a comment here by city council saying they only annex land that's in the SSA. That's not true. That 234 acres was annexed despite it not being in the SSA. And that same gentleman voted twice for that. With annexations that go against public opinion and go against the DOA's recommendation, that drives us to this result of incorporation. Incorporation is a responsible and proactive response to preserve our tax base and our community. This effort is important to me, my family, and the residents in the room here. Last fall, I reached out to neighbors, went door to door, and talked to over 70 houses. Literally everyone was in favor of this annexation or this incorporation. There was one person I talked to who said, I just need a little more information before I make a decision. Otherwise, of those 70 houses, 69 were absolutely in favor, as you're hearing here tonight. Throughout this summer and the fall, my neighbors regularly ask, have you heard how the incorporation process is going? And reference how important it is to our community. The residents are passionate about it. I think you're seeing that here tonight. You're seeing it in letters. It comes up continually in conversations no matter where I am. The township has been good stewards of our taxes. I feel their ability to maintain relatively flat taxes over the last 5 years has kept things affordable for me and my family, and they have done this while maintaining good services. I also appreciate the town leadership. As issues arise, they are proactive in setting up feedback sessions with the community. Examples are they've had sessions around the wind turbines, this incorporation process, they have open houses and get feedback. They ensure that our residents have a meaningful voice in decisions that affect us every day. This is a strong community that can continue to thrive if incorporation is approved. As the annexations continue, my fear is that we lose that tax base and then we lose these good services that we currently receive. So I respectfully urge you to support our petition for incorporation and help ensure our community remains connected, stable, and able to thrive. So thank you.
Peggy Kincaid, followed by Catherine White, followed by Jennifer Meyer. Peggy? All right, Catherine White.
Hi, my name is Catherine White. I live at 6731 Lowe's Creek Court, and I'm just reading from a letter I sent to Mr. Ketter recently. I live in the township of Washington, where my husband and I have 3.8 acres on beautiful Lowe's Creek, just south of the city of Eau Claire. We have several gardens, chickens, and enjoy beekeeping. Our property also resides in the proposed incorporated village. We've been residents for 25 years and have raised our children here. The folks that choose to live in the town of Washington do so with good reason. Peaceful and safe living is why people choose to live here. Residents strongly care and appreciate the freedom from too much government overreach, as evidenced by the city of Eau Claire at its borders, especially with recent annexations without honoring previous mutual agreements with the town of Washington. Where am I? Responsible growth expansion with good intention of best use of land has always been a priority in the township of Washington. Responsible use of funds and efficiency of government services is evidenced by the leadership in the town of Washington, and lower taxes are appreciated and highly valued. With the incorporation of the village of Washington from a portion of the town of Washington, the residents have the autonomy to make good, independent, and sound decisions on future growth, as well as protect from high density and urban sprawl, while still supporting the metro area as a whole and maintaining the very lifestyle the residents have purposefully chosen. This is why we and other residents value living here. With the organic growth and fundamental sustainable and family ideals already present in the township of Washington, participation of the residents is also a contributing factor for the success of the village. Keep it local, with the local government of like-minded ideals of the residents is the most crucial way to support the micro while also supporting the macro. This is the government as it should be by we the people. Please consider supporting a portion of the Township of Washington and the Village of Washington. I have all confidence not only in its success, but its contribution to the community as a whole. Myself and many neighbors I have spoken with are in very strong, indelible, and unanimous support of this proposed village approval of a portion of the Township of Washington. With respect and best regards, thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer Meyer, followed by Jessica Hughes, followed by Ken Wallback.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Meyer, and I'm not from the town of Washington. I'm from the town of Union. I am the chairperson for that township. I am here on behalf of the town of Union to express our strong support for the town of Washington's petition to incorporate as a village. As a neighboring town, we share deep commitment to fostering regional growth, enhancing local governance, and ensuring the residents have a strong voice in the character of their towns. The initiative to incorporate the majority of the town of Washington as a village is a testament to the collective vision and dedication of its residents and leaders. We have seen overwhelming resident support for this effort, and we believe that this move will bring numerous benefits, not only to the town of Washington, but also to the surrounding communities, or surrounding municipalities, including ours. By becoming a village, the town of Washington will gain greater autonomy and a more robust framework for addressing local needs and aspirations. We also believe that the incorporation of the town of Washington will benefit the entire metropolitan planning organization area in terms of governmental relations and preservation of local character in the face of the aggressively expanding city government. The town of Washington's incorporation would create another municipal counterbalance to the disappropriate weight of the city of Eau Claire has carried within the metro community. Our support for this initiative is grounded in the following key considerations: enhanced local government on land use. The incorporation as a village will empower the town of Washington to make land use decisions within the extraterritorial jurisdiction areas it currently does not control. Economic development, village status often brings increased opportunities for economic development. As a village, the town of Washington will be better able to plan and expedite local projects, particularly for small businesses development, which will help drive economic growth for the entire region. Collaborative opportunities. As a village, the town of Washington will be better positioned to collaborate with neighboring municipalities on regional initiatives. This will enhance our collective ability to address shared challenges and leverage common opportunities. Improve services and infrastructure. The town of Washington has a long history of productive collaboration with its neighbors for shared services. We believe this will continue with incorporation. The town of Washington and the village of Washington will allow them to better manage and improve local services and infrastructure, directly benefiting residents and businesses, therefore continue its legacy of community cooperation. Collaborative fire department. Our township fire department, which was established in 1955 and is a Wisconsin non-stock corporation formed by the towns of Seymour, Washington, Union, Pleasant Valley, and Brunswick. The towns have agreed to bylaws for township fire department, which are a type of contract with respect to the operation of the corporation. In 1983, a first responder unit was organized called EmergiCare.
Your time is up.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Jessica Pence, followed by Kent Wallbach.
Hello, my name is Jessica Poise. My husband Dramus and I reside at 6999 Poise Road. My husband and I represent the Poise family farm located on Poise Road in the town of Washington. My husband's great grandparents, Philip and Martha Poise, moved to the farm in 1910. The Poise family has been careful stewards of our farm and responsible citizens for the town of Washington, in the town of Washington for 115 years. Our family farm is located in the area proposed to be part of the new village of Washington. We have lived on the original farm, and we are next door neighbors to my mother-in-law, my husband's mother, Holly, who lives at 6765 Boys Road, on another parcel of our farm. It is important to our family to preserve this farm for current and future generations of the Poise family. My husband was born and raised on the land and has helped care for it throughout his lifetime. The town of Washington, with its strong agricultural character and carefully managed governance, is important to our family. As the city of Eau Claire continues to grow and absorbing the portions of the town of Washington nearby, our farm is located within the 3-mile city of Eau Claire plat review area. This creates a situation where decisions about land development and future expansion are often made by elected officials who are not representing the citizens of the town. We are not able to vote for the city of Eau Claire officials, and they do not represent the interests of the town residents. As our community looks to the future and faces the inevitable need to further develop the land beyond the city of Eau Claire and Altoona, it is important for the longtime residents and stewards of this area to have local control over future growth. The town of Washington has always had careful and responsible governance, and we believe the village of Washington would be governed and managed equally well. We believe the ability to govern locally without fear of future annexation to the city of Eau Claire or Altoona will allow the village of Washington to manage growth responsibly while supporting the family farms, families, and businesses that make this community so great. We urge the Incorporation Review Board to recommend approval of the town of Washington's petition to incorporate a portion of the town of the village of Washington. This will strengthen our local community while ensuring there is local representation and governance now and into the future. Thank you.
Kent Walbeck, followed by the petitioner's concluding remarks. Kent left. Okay, petitioners. Just 1 second, I need to make sure there's no testimony slips here. Okay. All right, then next petitioners. Concluding remarks.
Oh, is there a hand on the?
All right, Joy 2, do you wish to testify? Joy, you would need to unmute yourself.
Oh, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
are you ready? Do you wish to testify?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt anyone. I really didn't. Sorry.
Okay, so do you wish to testify?
Yes, just very briefly, if it's allowed.
Please begin.
Joy Schumacher, 509 Deerfield Road. I'm speaking on behalf of my siblings Jane Corte and Randy Schumacher. I just want to, I'm not going to say anything that hasn't already been said, except for I really want to thank everyone for their dedication to incorporate us as a village. This land is extremely important to my family and myself, our history, our farming history. It's the annexation is just a shame, and I just would love to be able to keep this land just as it is, as it should be, farmland, country land. The reason why we live here. I come from a farming generational family, and we've owned this land for a long time, and I would hate to I hate to see what's happening. So thank you so much. I thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Joy.
Good evening. My name is Gary Spillane. I'm president actually of the Village of Lake Alley. And tonight I heard some comments from Eau Claire about the cost of services. As John Anderson said earlier, we were incorporated about 2003. Since then, we've grown the police department. We support over half of the Chippewa Fire District. Our roads are well maintained. We have the water system portions of the village. And we're virtually debt free. And we have a lot lower taxes than the city of Eau Claire. So
I had to throw in
your
a
services and all,
worth of
I
something.
think it's absolutely possible and not have to raise the taxes that much. So we strongly, and our village board, excuse me, our village board did write a letter in support of the incorporation. So, thank you.
Thank you. Now is petitioners' concluding remarks.
All right, thank you. I will try to keep this brief, as I think we learned how much you can actually believe what a lawyer says. So keep this as fast as possible. My name is Rick Manke. I represent the petitioners. Essentially, I just want to summarize briefly what we've heard tonight. This petition satisfies all the legal requirements for incorporation. So just a few high-level points. First, the requirement is that there's reasonably homogeneous and compact area. Residents have come out in great support tonight to show that they identify as Washingtonians. This is the area that they call home. This is a distinct area with recreational opportunities and services that they all love and enjoy. So talking about development potential future development, there is great development potential after incorporation. There's a major thoroughfares throughout the proposed village. We've got the interstate, we've got major state highways. That alone is a great indicator of potential future development. Not only that, but once the town or the village is no longer subject to ETJ authority or under county zoning authority, it will be able to make its own land use decisions, which will open up many more acres for prime development within the proposed village. So right now, as you've heard, there's a 10-acre minimum lot size requirement within a large portion of the ETJ. Recent history would strongly suggest more development to follow once there's more land for future development. On the level of services, this community does not desire the urban services that are consistent with other areas in the county. This is a community that wants to be suburban in nature. They're happy with their level of services, but they want to exercise self-autonomy. They want to make their own land use decisions, their own planning decisions. Incorporation allows them to have those increased level of services while maintaining the same level of services that they're receiving from the town. Not only that, but the village will be a positive influence on the metropolitan community. Obviously, we've heard a lot from other communities tonight. They're part of the Regional Planning Commission. They are active members in the advisory committees, the MPO, the Technical Advisory Committee. They worked on intergovernmental agreements with other communities in the area. There's no reason to doubt that wouldn't continue. They want to help solve governmental problems in the greater Eau Claire County area. And look no further than the Township Fire. They founded it, they've been working and managing it. It's a consortium of towns. It's a great example of sort of the commitment that they have to providing services and solving governmental issues throughout the area. So I want to thank you all for your time. I know it's not an easy job for all of you, and you made the trip out here and you got other incorporations. So really appreciate your time, but I ask that you incorporation, let this go to referendum. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for your attendance and your testimony tonight. If anyone has a remaining registration form to turn in, please do so at this time to let us know, how you register. The board's next meeting will be a virtual meeting to discuss how this petition squares with the statutory standards. So you'll get kind of our analysis and how it's looking against the statutes at that meeting. That meeting has yet to be scheduled, but Brad will be reaching out to board members to schedule this meeting. I'm thinking probably February-ish. So it's going to be a little bit. Petitioners and members of the public may attend this meeting as well. And we will notify the town and intervenor staff of the date, time, and location. It will be available online, so you'll be able to watch it online. And then everything that we do, tonight's hearing will be online. That meeting will also appear online, so you can watch it. If you can't come during the time of the meeting, you can watch it later. So everything that's done with this process is public. Finally, a reminder that if anyone wants to submit additional information to the board following this hearing, we will accept submissions until Friday, January 9th, 2026. Send your comments to WI Municipal Boundary Review at wi.gov. WI Municipal Boundary Review at wi.gov, or else our snail mail address, which is P.O. Box 1645 Madison 53701. And both those addresses are on the handouts. So if you have any of the handouts, that you can find that the address is there. So thank you all for coming tonight, and I will declare this public hearing closed at 7:07. Thank you.